Please take your seats. The meeting is about to begin. Please stand by. We are going on air in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everybody. I hope we were all prepared and excited for an exciting Memorial Day weekend. It is quite amazing how transformative this weekend has been for our city. A weekend where historically people couldn't get out of town fast enough. There is just an excitement building for what should be a fabulous weekend. So I hope everybody enjoys. Before we get to the festivities celebrating Memorial Day weekend, we are here at the May Finance and Economic Resiliency Committee. I thank my colleagues for joining me, but let's kick it off and get started.
Good morning. Today's meeting of the Finance and Economic Resiliency Committee has been scheduled in a hybrid format with a quorum of the committee physically present and remaining members, staff, and members of the public appearing either in person or virtually via Zoom. In order to participate in today's meeting virtually, members of the public may dial 1-888-475-4499 toll-free and enter the webinar ID, which is 863-6059-5462#. Or you may log into the Zoom app and enter the webinar ID, which again is 863-6059-5462. Any individual wishing to speak on an item must click the raise hand icon if they are using the Zoom app, or dial *9 if you are participating by phone.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. And before I hand it over to our CFO to kick off the various items that we will be having time uncertains and deferrals for, while we have made tremendous progress on this weekend, I understand it is still quite taxing on our first responders, notably our code, police, and fire. So even if it is from above up there, maybe if I could ask our police department to lead us in the pledge, that'd be great. Mr. CFO, I'll turn it over to you, and if I could just ask everybody to bear with me and everyone else as we're still getting through this new IT system.
Thank you, Chair. So I have a few announcements. First, I'm going to list the withdrawn items. Number 1, number 15, number 17, number 28 are withdrawn.
Number 1, 15.
17 and 28. Number 33 is deferred. The following is a list of time certains. Number 27 at 10:30. Number 3 at 10:35. Number 36 at 11 a.m. Number 32 at 12 noon.
Which one was 11?
36.
And then after that.
Number 32 at 12 noon. Number 34, 1 p.m. Number 25 at 1:25 p.m. The following items will be heard. Yeah. The following items are linked and will be heard simultaneously, if heard. Number 7 and number 10 are linked. Number 11, 13, and 14 will be linked. And number 5 and number 25 are linked. Thank you, Chair. That is all my notes for now.
Excellent, thank you. Before we get to the 10:30 time certain, I want to kick it over to my colleague, Commissioner Dominguez, who has really been fighting for the everyday little person that are operating businesses, especially home-based businesses, and I believe that this should be a quick item. So, Commissioner, I'd love to get you out of here to start your Memorial Day weekend. So why don't we go ahead and look at item number 2.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. So Manny Marquez and I have met several times and had many conversations about the BTR process, and we took the suggestion that you gave at the last finance meeting, which was if we are that much higher in our BTRs than any other municipality in the state, then let's knock it off 30%. And on average, that's what we did. And something else that we've worked on is making sure that businesses that we weren't capturing before, we now know. So it's been a nice overhaul of the item. Manny, if you want to share anything else?
Good morning. Manny Marquez, Assistant Director of Finance. We worked on the chart of BTR categories, and frequently we get requests for how many vape shops we have, how many CBD shops we have, several categories that we don't have a business BTR category for. So the commissioner and I went through the list and we added all these categories, and I think we have a really good list. We've been trying to do this for some time, so now we have the right commission, the right administration, the right CFO that wanted to tackle this, and we're adding these categories, so I think it's a good thing.
Excellent, thank you. And was there estimated financial impact? And how I'm looking at this, Commissioner Dominguez, thank you for your leadership on this. Even if we do lose a bit of revenue that we were getting in because we're lowering the fee, I think over the longer term, given that we're widening the net, we're actually going to be revenue positive here.
Correct. With the adding these categories is revenue neutral because these businesses are already being charged. They're being charged for merchant sales. So it's going to be revenue neutral. Where we are reducing some monies is with the reduction in the home-based businesses, and that was just $34,000.
Excellent. Thank you for the leadership. I love any initiative to make business easier to do for our everyday people in this city. So thank you, Commissioner.
And I would request if someone on the committee could move the item.
I'll move it.
Second.
Thank you.
If I could clarify, so I clarify the motion, move to commission with a favorable recommendation to approve the BTR modifications as presented.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you.
All in favor? Yep. Aye.
We'll show it as unanimous, and I believe this will come back as actually not the reso, but an ordinance. Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the 10:30 time certain.
Thank you. Actually, let me read the item, and I didn't do that the first time, so let me read. That is number 27 for those following at home. And number 27 is discuss the issuance of the second tranche of the general obligation bonds, number 27.
Okay.
Maria, thank you for all your work. I know this is your
Yeah.
pride and joy, so
This
thank
is
you
my
for
pride
this.
and joy. So for those of you that know, I mean, the GEO bond is in its fifth year. That's the 2018 bond that was issued, that was approved by the voters in 18, and bonds issued in 2019. So we are in our fifth year. There are three categories within the bonds, and today, the neighborhoods and infrastructure category is running out of funding in order to continue some of the programs which, or some of the projects that are pretty important to the residents and things that we've been doing very constantly. That is the street tree master plan, so it's the planting of trees, sidewalk improvements, street pavement, seawalls and shorelines, and traffic calming. These 5 projects are basically out of money. So for the first time, we're going to be issuing the money from Tranche 2 into these projects, and our CFO can discuss the vehicle by which we're going to do that, because we're not actually going to be issuing bonds, it's an intent to issue. So that's for $19.8 million to continue to fund these projects. In the item, you see the chart that tells you the amounts and how much we're going to be asking for each. A couple of them will still have money remaining in Tranche 3, and that's streets and sidewalks.
Excellent. Thank you, Maria. I do want to keep this conversation kind of centered around the purpose at hand, as we have a large agenda. So while there will be time and place to get broader updates on the broader GEO bond projects, for this right here, it's nothing that is unexpected. This was all part of the plan. And essentially, this is actually a good sign because we're essentially moving forward with some of these projects and we're moving into the next phase.
Correct.
Mr. Chair. And just one for the record, this does not, at the moment, this action today or adopting its recommendation at the full city commission does not yield any tax increase to the residents and taxpayers of the city of Miami Beach. Is that correct?
That is correct, but our
That is-
CFO can elaborate on that.
Yeah, yes, that is correct, because what we're taking is the same model that we did last month on the water and sewer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, of course. Mr. CFO or Mr. City Attorney, do you want to advise on action? I think we're just making a motion to allow this to go forward. Is that correct?
That is correct. You're just adopting a motion to refer this back to the commission with a favorable recommendation, if that is the body's determination.
So moved.
Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez.
I just wanted to understand the interest implications, given the current economic environment. and-
Sure. As of now, just like the water and sewer, we won't actually be issuing the debt now. This is a request to declare an intent to issue. We will issue in the future when the time is right. Could be anywhere from 12 to 24 months down the line. So we will be utilizing the city's reserves and then paying ourselves back. Effectively, what commonly is called a reimbursement resolution.
But it's going to be at a much higher interest rate than previously, correct?
No, if I knew what the interest rates were in 2 years from now, and I don't think I would be here. But knowing that as we are now, our kind of historical, it's been probably 2 generations since we have rates this high. I would predict they might be lower in the future. But either way, on the long end, which is what GO bonds are issued out, in the 20, 30-year line, there really hasn't been a big change from the back in the 19. So I don't see a big difference in the interest expense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tidbit for the record, Goldman just came out and adjusted their expectation for the first rate cut from July to September, along with that. So, okay, Commissioner Fernandez, motion to move, you made a motion to move this
So
forward?
moved.
Excellent. Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Maria, thank you and your team for the incredible work on this. Okay. Let's move forward to number 3, discussion regarding Tyler Technologies performance.
Thank you. Number 3, discussion regarding technology performance and strategy for the city of Miami Beach. We have Frank here, and I'll also be presenting. Actually, I'll kick it off, and Frank will jump in if I'm off on anything. We presented this item last month, and the only item left to close out here was a discussion about as we move into Tyler payments. We are in the middle of actually the critical stage for our utility billing rollout to the new software, and the discussion related to credit card payment processing. And if we wanted to move from an absorption model where the city is absorbing all credit card fees across all different payment platforms to a system where we do a hybrid, where we would absorb all of the costs related to e-check, ACH, people can still cash pay. So there'll always be those free options across all the bandwidths, but the credit card charges we pass through to the customer if they so chose. And that is the administration's recommendation. After discussion at FERC last time, there was interest in the utility billing side about the small single-family home, about someone who might have difficulty paying and wanted to still pay with a credit card and didn't want to charge that fee. I did work with Frank and the utility billing team to see what options are out there. So there is a modified hybrid approach, which is listed out in your memo, where we could still do the pass-through on all the credit card fees on all other platforms except utility billing. The city could continue to absorb the credit card fees for all utility billing charges. So you could use it for free with no fee on utility billing only. But the request would be to kind of hedge that in, since it was an interest on just this for the small single-family homes, of which the average bill is $290 per month for water, sewer, stormwater, and sanitation, that perhaps that we could put a limit on the credit card. I've done that in another government I was in. So this would limit, hotels or large buildings from charging $30,000 to a credit card, but still letting the single-family home in there. So maybe a $400 or $500 limit on credit card transactions may be entertained. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Of course.
So the goal is to protect the most, those who might want to, those who might be at most risk for not being able to pay. And I think if the average bill is $290, we should set that limit at $300. And with the chair's permission, I would move it with that amendment if people are willing to do that.
I'll second.
Okay, call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to oppose this item. Thank you.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to oppose this item.
Pause it?
Yes.
Oh,
opposed.
I thought you said post. I was going to go to our city attorney
Can
for
I-
a clarification on the rules.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah.
Because
and if you would
your
like to-
arguments at the last meeting were quite valid.
Okay, so
and-
then I'm opposing too.
Thank you.
Yeah. I didn't know that I had some.
So it'll be 2-2, and it would go back to commission with I believe, an unfavorable recommendation?
Unfavorable, correct.
Okay, so it won't come back as a consent, it would come back as a resolution for debate at the commission. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. I would like to call sanitation, but I know Commissioner Suarez wanted to be here for that. So why don't we go ahead and take item number 5, discuss taking whatever action necessary, including allocating funding for electricity and infrastructure upgrades.
If I can, that was linked to number 25, which has a 125 time certain.
Okay. Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, I know that you had a couple items on here that we've been looking to get at and are a high priority for you. I'll leave it up to you if you want to hear the item on Fifth Street first or your tree parking lot item.
The tree parking lot, I'd like to wait for Commissioner Suarez, my fellow tree hugger, to arrive before I call it, because I think I don't know if it's controversial or not. So could we wait on that? We could go to Fifth Street. Is this about Tap Tap?
It is, yes.
Okay. Sure. I would call it, it's just.
I'll read the item into the record. Let me just find that real quick.
What number is the Tap Tap item?
That's item number 35.
35. Way up there.
Yes, thank you. Item number 35, discuss the possible purchase of the property located at 819 Fifth Street, number 35.
So, for those of you who don't know, Tap Tap, the people who own the building where Tap Tap is, they passed on, and the estate contacted me to see what we could do with the property, which is historic. They didn't really want to sell it. At this point, they reached out to us. I mean, I don't know if we would want to pursue somehow maybe getting grant money. I think it's very relevant for the Haitian community. However, I don't know if, Miami Beach is the place to find those funds. We might need to go to the county, maybe change this into a resolution to try to get the county to purchase the property. Liz, where are we on this? The estate did reach out. Did you have a conversation with them?
We haven't been able to contact them. I did get a valuation study,
Oh.
and it's at 3.4 million.
3.4. So, I mean, listen, I can't necessarily justify Miami Beach purchasing it. I don't know how you feel about it. Would you guys consider sending a resolution to the county that they could potentially help us find the funding to purchase this? Just a resolution to all the county commissioners asking if they would like to make an offer to the estate before it gets sold.
And I'll kick it over to my colleagues, but I think before I'd be comfortable doing something like that, I'd need more well-baked plans about exactly what we would want to see there. I'm very hesitant to just purchase something or even ask for county funds, which are still Miami Beach taxpayer funds, to purchase something without very well thought out plans. And I'm happy to keep this item on the agenda if you wanted to kind of stew over exactly what we would want to see there.
I'm saying that I don't think we should buy it, but I think the county should purchase it because it means a lot to the Haitian community overall. It has original artworks all over the inside of the building that mean a lot, and I think the Haitian members of the county commission and Haitian residents should, I don't think that the estate knows who to contact, so they came to me. So, I mean, I would like to convert this, my motion on this would be to convert it into a resolution to explore, to ask the county commission what they would like to do with Tap, with the building, with everything, just like making them aware of it. And then with that resolution, I can go and I can lobby them.
My colleagues have thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's an odd little building. There's not a lot that can happen there, so I do think it would be useful to have some ideas of how it could be used, and I would think that maybe the county would have more, maybe be in a better position to both purchase it and to utilize it for maybe some county facility here in Miami Beach, but I don't see any issue with trying to figure out how to retain the building for the use of the general public, especially since there are notable historic murals in there.
Yeah,
Good.
thank you.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you. And it's a great idea. And this property falls in District 5, represented by Commissioner Higgins. I would say before we pass a resolution to all of the 13 members of the county commission, we reach out to all of her colleagues. I would say perhaps we should reach out. I don't know if we have already or not spoken to Commissioner Higgins, but I would suggest first speak with Commissioner Higgins before we adopt, because she might be interested in this or she might not.
Well,
But it'd be good to have her by this.
What if
Sorry.
between now and the next meeting, because we haven't passed a resolution, I reach out to her. Just in the, we have 6 weeks, I can call her. I do think that there are several members of the county commission that would be interested because it's a Haitian landmark. It has the original artwork. They might want to turn it into some sort of Haitian cultural facility.
Sure.
There's not a lot of buildings like this, and it does play a role in our history. So if you guys would, my motion would be to send it to the full commission as a resolution to encourage the county to work with the estate to somehow figure out a purchase. And with that, and I'll reach out to Commissioner Higgins in the interim and several other of the county commissions. And then by the time that it goes to commission, I will have more information.
It's fine. And just where I stand, nothing personal. I'm not going to vote in favor. This is the entrance corridor for our city. At the Burger King and Pier 1 site, we're getting one of the best architects in the world to do a transformative project at the entrance here. This building, to me, is not my vision for Miami Beach, and certainly not something that is important enough to me to urge taxpayer dollars being used on that, but I'm not going to stand in your way if you have the support and you want to make that motion.
Okay, so I made the motion. Okay.
If I can clarify the motion,
Passes.
return to commission to issue a resolution to urge the county commission to purchase the property located at 819 Fifth Street.
Explore the purchase of the property and
Explore
speak to
the
the
purchase.
estate. And if you need information about the state, you can contact my office. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the recorded vote was 3-1?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Suarez, thank you. Did you want to take item number 40, discussion regarding a fitness festival, March 2025?
Yeah.
Or, you know what, I'm sorry, that's a future item. Apologies for that. That's going to be heard at the June item. Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, why don't we talk about your tree item? I know you wanted to wait for Commissioner Suarez.
I called you my fellow tree hugger, Commissioner Suarez. For those of you who know, the parking lot adjacent to North Beach Elementary is void of trees or shade. It is not the most attractive parking lot, and yet it's one that so many parents and so many of those of us who live in Mid-Beach.
If I could just announce the item so they can have it for time.
Okay.
This is item 23, discussion regarding adding shade trees and repaving parking lot P63, item 23. Thank you.
It's a large lot. It has no shade. It's ugly. It is. That's all I can say about it. And we had it painted, we had it restriped, but it's still, it needs work. And I watch all of the parents coming during the day, you know, they, like, if we were to make an investment, and the reason why this is so important is because we have these unsightly surface lots across the city that could become potentially beautiful if we planted shade trees. And, you know, in the GEO bond, we saw that we had a couple of $1 million dedicated to tree planting, and we never once tried to really plant trees and transform something. And I can't think of a better place to do it than where all of the parents of North Beach Elementary and all of the residents park to go to the hardware store in Mid-Beach. You know, we go to Roasters and Roasters there. The school is there. So it's a frequently used lot. And when we tried to use it as a Saturday market, it was so hot. It was so hot that it was unbearable. So we did an estimate on what this would cost, and it was expensive. We're talking $1.5 million to do this. But if we spend this money and transform that lot, this is a direct impact on tens of thousands that live in the area, and it's something that they're going to see that their government is really working for them. And they haven't seen this because we really haven't beautified Mid-Beach. We spent a lot of money down in South Beach, but Mid-Beach is largely, in many cases, forgotten. We're finally getting the water main that we need there. But this is something that we could do, and it's a positive impact. It's expensive, but I think it's worth it. So I don't know how you feel about it, but I'd be so happy if we could transform this surface lot for the parents of North Beach Elementary. Didn't you just get elected, Commissioner Magazine, to the PTA? So you understand what that is as a single dad, Mr. Mom? Yeah.
Mr. Dad. David, before I recognize you, and happy to have just a free back and forth. If I recall, because it's a noble effort, it is with a hefty price tag. If I recall, there were two different options. We almost had like a more cost-sensitive option that was on there. Am I correct in that?
Here, would you like to give us the two options?
Yeah, please.
The item started as an expansion to the landscaping, but what we had envisioned at the time was some perimeter landscaping. And Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez brought to our attention that the center of the lot was untouched and unimproved, and that's how this option was developed.
Initially, they said, sure, we're going to plant trees all around the perimeter, which does nothing. I mean, to spend that money, I would rather, you know, it's just like throwing it away because there's already trees on the perimeter. We need to figure out how to cut through concrete and plant trees. This is a good way for our city staff to begin to work with these contractors so that we can cut through concrete and plant trees. And I think we can all agree that our tree canopy needs to be improved. And we need to start working actively on this. And we haven't, to date, done a single project like this.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yeah, just a question, because I recall a while back, like in Central Bay Shore, there were funds for increasing the tree canopy on the public right-of-ways. Property owners had to contact the city, and I think that there was an issue of not enough property owners were interested. And I'm just wondering, you know, do we still have funding available from that we could use for this purpose? I don't know if that was through CIP or through some other effort.
Yeah, I'm sorry, David Gomez, Interim Director of CIP. I'm not familiar with the details of that program and what's left. We did look for this project at the possibility of using reforestation GOB funding to help reduce the cost on this one.
Can I ask a question?
Thank you.
Magazine.
Hold on, Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, and then Commissioner Bott, then Commissioner Suarez.
Does the parking department have any reserves to help with this? I believe they do, and they could probably issue a revenue bond with this also.
I can speak to that. Yes, the reserves and the parking fund's doing very well. The parking fund does have dollars available. If this was something to move forward, that would probably be the funding source I would recommend.
Okay.
Commissioner Bott, then Commissioner Suarez.
You know, we've talked about the shade canopy and heat deserts all over the city. I don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul. I know Parkview Island, where people actually live rather than just run in and out while they're doing their errands, is in desperate need of tree canopy, and it's going to be complicated because there are no sidewalks on most of the island, and so it's going to be probably more expensive. How would doing this affect that?
I have not looked into those comparisons.
Let me go to, okay, if you want to answer.
No.
Commissioner Suarez.
Yeah, good morning, David. Commissioner Gonzalez brings up a good point, so we have a parking fund. I think a couple of meetings ago, we discussed the automatic readers for parking, right? And it had like a 900% increase in revenue as a result. I don't know how this body feels, but I think if we open that doorway up to increase city revenues, we can certainly fund projects like this, especially as it relates to parking. Another question is, how much was it originally for the perimeter of the parking lot as opposed to putting the trees in the middle of the parking lot?
Do you remember what that was?
And I have a follow-up after this. Yeah, sure.
Lindsay, Practice Assistant Director of the Environment and Sustainability Department. To add 20 small trees around the perimeter, it would have come to about $40,000, but that didn't include the transformational nature.
So how is it 950,000 for like the middle? Are they small trees? Are you putting in more established trees? Is it because of concrete cutting?
Yeah, it has to do with the restoration of the asphalt as well as all of the rerouting of the electrical for the parking lot lighting
And so the $1.5 million, how many trees does that come out to?
24 trees, 24 18-foot trees
In the middle, or is it everywhere?
in the parking islands. So between the rows of parking.
So
Do we have
that's
rent-
excluding the perimeter.
That excludes the perimeter, yes.
Okay. Another good thing about, just so everyone aware, when we were campaigning, I don't know if everyone remembers, but there was a PAL event with the police, and yeah, and it was great. And I think there would be a lot more activations there if we had a little bit more shade for community events there. But I'm just a little concerned that 24 trees is $1.5 million. Yeah, that seems like a lot. I mean, did we? Is that just a rough estimate, or?
That is using historical data that we have and adding an escalation
And
factor.
is that something that Miami Beach does, or you contract that out?
No, we did that in-house. Oh, you mean the actual work would be contracted?
It's a big price tag just for.
Commissioner Bott, then Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez.
So it seems like a lot of the cost is because we're cutting concrete and we have to reroute our utilities. Is there not a way to do something above ground and maybe construct some concrete planters or something where you don't have to cut into the underground facilities, which is the bulk of the cost?
The issue with doing something above ground is that those medians are so narrow that you don't have a whole lot of room to put a tree-type planting. So you wouldn't have room for roots.
So is the parking lot, and I'm not a fan of removing parking space, but is it always used to capacity? I mean, I lived in that neighborhood for 13 years. I don't remember it ever being used to capacity.
This would not remove any parking spaces. What it does do is provide the suspended soil system that allows the roots to grow under the asphalt.
But my point is, if we, you're saying that it'd be problematic to do concrete planters because we'd have to take up some parking spots. But if this parking lot is never, or almost never used to capacity, maybe that is a trade-off that, we might lose, let's say, 6 parking spots, but we would get planters without costing $1 million.
We did not consider removing spaces out of concern for parking availability and parking funds and other things.
So is that, Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, through the chair, if I might, could we maybe defer this to give the team an opportunity to evaluate that as an option so that we can accomplish the goal of preserving or creating a shade canopy without costing the city $1 million?
Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit of my experience with this.
Okay.
I've been waiting for 8 years to try to cut through concrete and plant some trees. and we have not been able to get it right. And we need to start to work with these tree contractors and learn how to do this, because this is something, especially right now, in this environment, we need to figure it out, and we haven't been able to. Now, just to give you an idea of how far away we are from this, the entire amount in the GEO bond to plant trees was $2 million, and to do one parking lot is 1.5. So we messed it up in the GEO bond. But here's the beauty of this. First of all, I would love to see Parkview Island do it. The thing is that this could be paid for. We have reserves in the parking fund, and the parking fund is doing well. Once we do this, can you imagine if we can do this on all the surface lots abutting Lincoln Road with monies from the RDA and make it just beautiful and shady, and like, it's just such a beautification. But if we don't do it once, and trust me, we tried to plant above ground in North Beach, and it was challenging. It took us a year and a half, and frankly, I admire the effort, but I think this is an exercise. It's something that we need to do. We have the funds in the parking reserves. We have them, and that enterprise fund is doing amazingly well. And when we pass that item, you're going to see 10 times the price. What I would ask you in my final 18 months here is to give me the opportunity, give us the opportunity to please cut through concrete and plant these trees, because it will become a gathering space, I guarantee you, for the elementary school, they wanted to do a fresh market on 41st, they can't, because there's no canopy, there's no shade anywhere. It's devoid of trees.
Do we have renderings for each of the different design options?
No, the most we have is the site plan that was included in the memo.
Yeah, so I mean, Commissioner Rosenthal Gonzalez, where I'm at, if you wanted to try a multi-step approach, I'd be fine moving forward with the perimeter. I'm very hesitant to sit there and say, without even seeing how a potential pro forma design would look, to say, yes, we're going to.
It's gonna have trees down these three.
Oh, okay.
It's just gonna have trees down. Look, this is what it looks like. It has no trees, and when we finish, it's gonna be full of trees. Just down the three. And I mean, we never spend money. When was the last time? And when was the last time we spent significant money in Mid Beach on something to beautify? It just doesn't happen very often. We bought the statue, that sun statue, and that was beautiful, and that was $25,000. But the truth of the matter is that it's largely forgotten, because North Beach needs so much, and a lot of attention goes to South Beach. But it's nice to remember our residents, which is primarily residential and not very tourist oriented, and especially the school that's right there. And another thing is that it kind of saves the parking lot if we're making an investment in it, so that the parents have that lot in the future. Because I know that a lot of people have wanted to purchase, develop it, but it has to go to referendum. It's never going to pass a referendum to sell that parking lot. And this is a directive. I'm telling you that thousands of people in Mid Beach are going to be grateful if we do this, because right now it's just so hot.
Question?
Commissioner Fernandez.
It just seems to me that $1 million for this, it seems just like a lot. I think the same residents that would benefit from this would probably come back to me and tell me, yeah, that was a lot of money per tree that you spent there. Like, I can hear their voices in my head right now. And I don't hear voices in my head that often. That often, that's right, Tanya. How about, because one of the concerns I have is that I saw someone complaining on social media about another place where we did something similar, where we cut through concrete and then the trees died, or they weren't doing well. And so what if we bifurcate this? Let's not go with $1 million. Let's break this up into two parts. Let's start with do a smaller amount. Let's do a smaller installation. If it works well, if it's successful, then we can come back and do a larger installation.
Can you do half the parking lot?
Well, not half the parking lot, but
I think.
Because I want to do this parking lot because we have the money there, and the revenue, the enterprise fund is generating money. We have the money to do that. We did a pilot program, and it wasn't good, and it took a year and a half to do.
Through the chair.
Yeah, I will. I'll just say where I'm at. I think I'm in Commissioner Fernandez's aligned thinking. I am happy to beautify this, but I think it would be irresponsible if we didn't see the cost-benefit analysis, right? Sure, we can do anything, it comes with a cost. It's noble that you are taking this on, looking to beautify for Mid-Beach. I'm fully aligned with you, but when I think bang for the buck, I'm thinking let's start with the perimeter, make that as beautiful as possible. And, well,
No,
okay,
I don't
well,
want to
you're
do
not
the
going-
permit, it's
okay.
wasting money.
Well, okay, I would say cutting through concrete for $1.5 million would be a waste, but you have my support if you want to beautify the perimeter with trees, shade trees, try and have some sort of canopy there. I'm happy to make this a multi-step approach where we start with that. I think that is essentially delivering true bang for the buck for our residents and taxpayers, where we're beautifying the area, but we're also doing things in a cost-conscious manner. Commissioner Suarez.
Yeah, last couple comments. I think Commissioner Bott had a great idea where, maybe we don't do it in the median, we sacrifice a few spaces. Because I pick up my kid from there, from Mathnasium, multiple times a week, and it's never full. So, yeah, I think definitely if that helps at all with cost savings.
If you are referring to an above-ground planter,
No. In-ground.
if it's in-ground, you're still dealing with the asphalt, the lime rock, the suspended pavement. You still have to do all of those things for the trees.
Okay, and then as Commissioner Magazine was saying, maybe if we were gonna have maybe a pilot program to start, I would wanna start on the west side, closer to the school, so when parents pick their kids up or drop them off and they park, they have shade. And it's closer to the school.
He's saying do the perimeter, which really does, that's what we've done to date. There's already trees on the perimeter. Look, what you're saying is to plant trees here where we already have trees. The idea here is to plant trees where we don't have trees. So look, the perimeter has trees. Where would we plant trees there? What we need to do is plant trees in the center.
Commissioner Gonzalez, through the chair. I think the chair is correct, where we need to maybe give us like a menu of options of where we want to start. Maybe we don't go full bore with $1.5 million. Maybe we spend a quarter of that and we start on the north side of the parking lot and we see how the residents, feel about that. But I certainly don't want to wait like years to do this just to see, plant like 6 trees. I'd like to, move forward with something as quickly as possible, preferably, if with a menu of options that we would choose from.
And David, you mentioned above ground planters. Okay.
The size of the planter limits the root growth, so you never get the full growth of the tree.
We won't get shade trees, they will die, and it will not be transformative. I've spent a lot of time on this, and the reason why it's so expensive is because we're also rewiring the entire parking lot. Honestly, we're going to need to rewire these lots anyway, moving forward, if we want to do some of the, AI parking stuff. This is all new electric. It's gonna be our only surface lot. It's kind of like, it's not just trees, it's electrical. Because what we found is when we cut through concrete, we break things. Okay, and so we know that we need to lay new lines. Now, if this was added to the general fund, I'd say, no, we can't do it. We don't have enough money in our capital, but this is coming from parking reserves, which is constantly being replenished.
Mr. Chair.
I just want,
And
and you can't do it let me just finish. And you can't, Commissioner Suarez, you can't do one little piece because you have to lay the new lines. I mean, if you wanted to say that we'll do one of the medians, just one, okay? So let's say that we do one and the price drops to 500,000, let's just do the one, but we can't just do like a little section. It doesn't work like that. It's transformative. This is not, and by the way, once we do this, then the city will understand how to get this done right. We're going to be working with certain contractors. We're going to develop relationships. We're going to be set to move forward and cut through more concrete. And I would hope that it's like places like Parkview Island that we have trial and error so that by the end, you can put trees in North Beach and on Parkview Island. But if we never take the plunge to even do one median, we're never going to get the canopy that we need.
If I may, Mr. Chair, perhaps what would be good in South Beach, we're very blessed that in South Beach, we have a beautiful canopy. We don't have the heat island effects that we have in other parts of our city. What we'd like to see is, if we're going to move forward with this, and I checked with our CFO, we have good reserves in our parking enterprise fund. I'm not sure if truly this is the intent of our parking reserves, but we do have a funding source for this. Is when this comes back to commission, it'll be great if we see, if we're planting, what is it, 24 trees here, 25?
24.
24. 24, 25. Commissioner Bott's count is 25 trees. But
Not a math person.
with a proposal to plant 25 trees in North Beach. North Beach needs it. We hear from our residents there all the time. They have a lack of canopy over there, and I think it's great that we're doing this in Mid Beach. But let's come back and let's be fair. This is not the area of our city where we have, the shortage in canopy. North Beach has a big shortage in canopy. If we have the funds, we have the funds. Let's move forward with it then. But let's do something for North Beach as well, where they're dealing with heat, where you have a lot of people who are walking and don't have the benefit of shade, who are using public transportation, have to stand hours, at a bus stop without the benefit of a tree to give them some cover. And so let's come back with a proposal together with this commission so that we help one neighborhood, but we help the other as well.
And where I'm at, hold on one second. Where I'm at, I am all for transformative projects, especially as we're talking about expanding our tree canopy. I would be more selective. If I'm talking about where we need to be transformative, it's not on surface parking lots, right? That is not my view for our city. I think it's ironic that we want to greenify surface parking lots, right? It's just counterintuitive. So I am fine for being selective and really going above and beyond. Where I'm at with this, I'd love a beautification project in a scaled down, cost efficient way. That's just where I stand. If you wanted to do a multi-pronged approach, move forward with the original proposal, but I'm just somewhat hesitant to move forward with $1.5 million project where we're just cutting through concrete to plant trees, and I don't even have renderings of what it'll look like besides like this, but with trees. That's where I'm at.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Okay. We all want to see more trees. We need to learn how to do this, and we want to try to make this very large space something that can be activated for the community. So here's what I propose. We will inevitably learn things as we do this, right? We haven't done this before. It sounds fairly complicated, and it will be a very useful learning exercise so that we can do it successfully and more efficiently going forward throughout the city. What I propose is that we take the westernmost lane where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I counted an existing thing as a new tree. So you have 8 new trees. You can pop in a couple more trees where there is already existing.
That's east. That's where.
No, I'm talking about this lane, right here. That's west.
That's north.
That's north?
North-south. That's north.
Okay, this one.
Northern.
That's the northern row.
Okay, the northernmost. Oh, right, okay. I only lived there 13 years. How would I possibly know this? Take the northernmost lane. Thank you. Pop in a couple of trees if there are some spots that are bare along the perimeter, and then you've created a nice, good-sized chunk of area that can be activated for markets and community events, while also learning what to do and what not to do. Taking the entire parking lot and doing it. It will be less expensive. You'll learn how to do it. We'll create an activated space, and from that, and it won't cost as much money. And then from that, we will then know, you know what, we can get the other 2 lanes of trees in for half the price because we now know we don't need to do this, or we can do that, or whatever we decide. It's not, even with this beautified space, nobody's using it, so maybe let's use that new knowledge someplace else in the city. So let's take your goal of creating a space and learning how to do this, but do it on a smaller basis so that we're not expending a fairly large amount of money that could be used in other things, and we can still get the knowledge that we need. That's what my proposal would be.
Is that your motion?
Sure.
Okay, I'll second that.
Before we do that, Tanya, do we have
I think we need to know how to do
a
it
dollar
first.
amount that we would look to say, David, $500,000, come back and show us what it is? And then the other question, and perhaps I can be supportive if we scale down that number, and think about ways where if we would expand a quasi-tree canopy that would make this open for events, if there would be revenue-raising opportunities that would coincide in that.
This is the border from single-family residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't know that we want to do, Mr. Chair, you had me until you said revenue-generating events. This is right at the border of a single-family
Elementary
residential
school.
neighborhood. We need to protect that character. I think if it's the PAL or a city activity like a farmer's market, that's low scale.
That's what you meant?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what,
Okay, all
we're
right.
not, we're not talking about a music festival here.
Okay. Well, no, I just
Like,
want to make sure.
yeah, if we have
I
a
don't read
farmer-
minds, so I would just want to make sure.
Well, if you would have heard me out without the theatrics, yes, something like a farmer's market, right, that is good for the neighborhood, but we can start earning some of this money back, right? We're spending $1 million or $500,000 on trees, and we're saying yes for activations. Okay, if you have a farmer's market, isn't that normal if it's on city public property to actually get back some? Tell me if I'm crazy. I don't know if Heather from the Economic Development Department, when we have things like Lincoln Road, vendors pay for that, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that's what you're talking
Yes.
about.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't want to move the music festival to the 41st Street parking lot. Things like, if we are going to do this so the space can be activated with things like for farmers markets, that we can offset some of these, large costs.
Through the chair, thank you. I highly advise to do it on the south side of the parking lot. I'm sorry, I know this item is dragging on forever, but as you can even see on the picture that there's more cars parked on the south side, and there's a lot of businesses on the south side, such as Mathnasium, the roasters and toasters. So people are more likely to park on the south side than the north side, and there would be much more value in having it there. But, I mean, David, you can come back and, I mean, if it's a toss-up between north or south, I don't know if there's a cost difference between the two, but.
So
Yeah, I'm going to go to Commissioner Bach, Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, and then I hope that we can settle on a motion to move this forward.
I would just suggest doing it on the north side. The south side is parked up a lot, but it's also a little bit nasty. You've got people cleaning the backs of their buildings and cleaning out their grills, and, it's never, it sometimes smells a little funky, like, it's just not super awesome if that's, like, I hear what you're saying, but if you want to have it be a lovely space for people to do a fresh market or a crafts fair or something like that, from the 13 years that I did live there, that's not the side I would want to be doing it on.
I mean, ideally, what we'd want to do is beautify what's nasty. But
it's
I
the
would go with the
businesses.
north. I'm just happy that you're willing to support any of these trees. So I'm going to go with your motion, and let's try it. Maybe it looks so beautiful that you guys agree afterward to do it. We have 6 weeks, until the next commission meeting. Can you get this? Can you get her motion into the next meeting? Because I don't want to bring it back here and then, and then it's maybe at July, maybe at August, then we don't meet in August. Could we, with your motion, to do the north side and plant the trees on both sides, could you bring this back to the full commission, ready to vote on?
I'd have to look and see when the memos are due for the next commission meeting.
Well, you have about a month, 5 weeks.
Memos are due before that. When is it? June 4th gives me a little over 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. It's a little tight. As long as we look at this high level and it's a general order of magnitude thing, yes, we can put something together
Okay,
for you.
all right. So I seconded Commissioner Botts, thank you, Commissioner Bott. This means a lot, and I think it will really be a beautiful space. I like your idea of putting more trees on the other side too. So you'd be creating a canopy, at least in one part of it. So Commissioner Fernandez, do you support the motion, Commissioner Bott's motion to do the north side? Yes. Okay. 3-1.
Chair.
Are you passing? Are you?
I'll go with the one, but I'll go with the one opposing, but I'm telling you, if a scaled down, more modest proposal comes back, did we quantify a dollar amount?
That's what I'll be working on.
I think that's what we
Okay.
need to hear from.
If this is somewhere that is a scaled down amount that still provides bang for the buck, Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, I'm going to be supportive of it. I'd like to see it before I say I'm supportive, but if this comes in at a more modest cost in the, half of what this was, where we're still providing the start of a tree canopy, you're going to have my support. Fair?
Okay, fair.
Chair, can I clarify the motion? I think I have it, but let
Yep.
me try, and Commissioner Bott, please chime in if I'm off. Return to commission with a favorable recommendation to plant trees at the P63 lot as discussed and modified with north side improvements.
North side improvements, like that lane, plus additional trees on the perimeter as needed.
Just for the motion, I didn't want to get super detailed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Was that passed unanimously or 3-1, Chair?
Do unanimously, but it's not a ironclad commitment that I'll be a yes at commission. I want to see what this proposal looks like. Okay, thank you for that. Item number 36.
Thank you. Let me introduce it. Item number 36, discussion regarding designating the city of Miami Beach a Blue Zones city and all the benefits costs associated with embarking on this undertaking. Number 36, it was the 11 a.m. time certain.
Thank you. I think Danny Butner Jr. is on Zoom. Danny, I apologize, we're running a little bit late this morning, but we just heard this meeting, this idea in the Neighborhoods Committee meeting. For those who didn't, does anybody know? Does everybody know what this is? Yes. Alex?
Yes.
Okay, so I won't reintroduce the item, but I wanted to talk to Danny if we can make him part of the meeting.
Danny, please raise your hand if you're on Zoom.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, Danny, how are you?
Terrific.
Sorry, we're running a little bit late. Everybody on the dais already knows about Blue Zone cities and I think is quite enthusiastic about the concept. So I wanted, since we're in front of the Finance Committee, I wanted to talk to you specifically about the finances and what it would take to get the initial steps going, how much money it would take, and how long it would take to start the evaluation process, which is the first step to designating a Blue Zone city. Could you talk to us a little bit about that, please?
Yes, is it possible to share screen?
Is PJ there?
Yes, give me 1 second, Danny. We have to promote you as a panelist. So just give us a couple seconds as we bring you over to the other side. So bear with us 1 second.
Well, while we were working on the technical aspect of this, for those in the audience who might be listening at home, Blue Zone cities, you might not think that Miami Beach needs to be made into a Blue Zone city because we have so many wonderful assets at our fingertips and available for free to anybody who wants to be here, but that's precisely why it's such a great opportunity. Tourism meccas like some of the beach cities in California and some of the tourist cities in Hawaii, which have a lot of similarities, have been extremely similar, or have been extremely successful in becoming blue zone cities, where they see increased life expectancy, better quality of life for residents, decreased healthcare costs, increased revenue for businesses and restaurants who are participating in the Blue Zone City, and really more sense of community. And, you know, as much as we are a home to a lot of us, we are also a pretty transient city. People come in and out, move in, leave in 5 years. And when I was out on the campaign trail last year, that's something I heard a lot about, actually missing a sense of community. So lots of bonus benefits to us in terms of health, quality of life, community, longevity, financial impact. And most important to me is that as we talk about shifting our brand as a city away from a party till you drop city, we would be shifting to a city that embraces wellness and well-being, which fits in really well with other types of businesses that we would want to attract. And there are millions and millions and millions of dollars in basically free media that we would be getting about this shift. And I don't know if anyone's here from the marketing department, but they can tell you, as I can, that is, you know, earned media is invaluable. So there are lots of good reasons to make this work. Oh, there we go.
All right, that looks like my cue. Thank you, Commissioner Bott. For those of you that Commissioner Bott hasn't already gotten to about blue zones, you have an opportunity for extra credit this week and go home and watch our Netflix. It's a great entertaining way to get oriented to blue zones in addition to our literature. Blue Zone's the company, about 200 people. We're an LLC. We operate across the United States, and we've operationalized the lessons from the world's longest lived people for Americans to continue to advance the American story. The big thing on this slide is just the word empower under our purpose. It's important to know that we don't do this to communities. This is a train the trainer model. And you know, a Miami Beach story, Miami Beach well-being strategy is TBD. We would leverage our experts, your experts, an evidence-based model, measurement, media, but ultimately it of course needs to be a story that we co-author. I'm going to fly through this, so don't worry, but original blue zones, places where people reach age 100 at 10 times the rate that we do here in the United States. Obviously, they have some best practices that we can bring into American lives, American communities, and our culture. To be frank about it, the biggest lesson that I think is important is of the hundreds of centenarians that we've studied, these communities that aren't just living long, but they're living rich, meaningful, purposeful, connected lives. Not a single one pursued health. Not a single one pursued longevity or connection or purpose or rituals or community. The biggest lesson they have is the best thing you can do for yourself is to shape your environment. It's about where you live and who you spend your life with. So our model is take inventory of life radius, the architecture of choices that either boost or erode a good lifestyle. This is our model in a nutshell. When we
Danny, if I could real quick, I think we're all incredibly enthusiastic. Well, I don't want to speak for everybody, but the people that I heard speak about this at Neighborhood and Public Safety, I think we're all incredibly enthusiastic about this. Just being time sensitive, Commissioner Bott, is there anything specific you wanted to address in that?
Yeah, so just going back to the original question about what do you need from the city of Miami Beach to start the process, and how quickly does that process kick off once we start?
Yes. So the first thing we need to do is an assessment. We need to do a 6-month get to know you. Get to know Miami Beach. What journey are you already on around transformation and well-being? Orient community stakeholders, grass tips and grassroots to this work. So the assessment is a 6-month scope of work. It's $220,000 for a community the size of Miami Beach. It involves quantitative and qualitative evaluation. So we have proprietary instruments to help baseline well-being, as well as the cost of doing nothing. So we're starting to set the table for an ROI for a well-being strategy. And then qualitative, what's already happening in schools, in built environment policy, in food system policy, in work sites, et cetera, bringing in our national experts to partner with your national experts. So as a result, we have a report. That's one deliverable, 200-page high-gloss report. A lot of communities use it in their CHNA and their planning. It's yours. The second deliverable is a custom blueprint. If we were you, here's where we would start with the work. Here's the biggest bang for your buck. Here's the lowest hanging fruit. And here's the real aspirational things that you should target. The third deliverable is a proposal for a 5-year partnership with Blue Zones to go and do this with Blue Zones. And then the fourth deliverable is we leverage our national development team to develop local sponsors. 90% of the 5-year work is paid for by not-for-profit health systems and health plans. Probably not a big leap of logic to conclude that there's a lot of value capture for them. So it's not, while municipal dollars can be used to introduce, orient, and do the assessment, it's not relied upon to do the transformation work. That's private sector funded. And that's the fourth deliverable is leveraging our process. So at the end, we don't just have a fancy report and a plan, but we have a resource and an alliance to go and execute.
Great. Well, unless anybody has questions, I would like to move this item. I think it is arguably the best bang for our buck. We could get a couple $100,000 up front for transformational impact for residents of every stripe, for businesses, for our tourism brand, and most of the ongoing costs going forward will be paid for by people who want to see us succeed. So with that, I would like to move the item.
Yeah, and I'll just tell you how I feel. I thank you for this initiative. I think it's wonderfully exciting. I'm going to be supportive. I just hope we truly put our money where our mouth is, and some of these things that are initiatives that we really take to heart and put in the forefront of our mind for every single decision that we're making as a city. You know, I want to embark on this and then not see fast food drive-throughs on some of our most important, you know, intersections throughout the city. So I'm going to be incredibly supportive. I just hope that we all keep this at the forefront of decision-making. Anybody else?
If I can, Chair, just wanted to, actually, Commissioner Bogdan made the motion. I just wanted to clarify, because you have two ways of, because I think it's about it being a budget item for 25. I just want to clarify, is the motion going to be to make it a budget priority during the 25? Because as of right now, it's not an enhancement. Or is it the move to commission to be part of the budget process, which means it would be on the list of enhancement, not necessarily a commission priority? I just wanted to get clarification.
Budget priority.
Priority, okay, thank you.
Commissioner Fernandez, Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, all good?
Yeah.
And we'll show that as a priority at $220,000, I believe was the number, and we'll show that as unanimous.
So just to be clear, making a budget priority is the strongest way to move forward?
Yes.
Okay.
It would now
Priority
became,
underlined and in red letters.
it will become an enhancement. I think Parks will draft it up. It'll become an enhancement, and we'll list it, you know, when we look through the slides, like we just had the retreat, it'll now go on there as the budget priority, and then we always work to our best to incorporate those.
Great.
Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Very tremendous initiative. Really excited about that.
Thank you, Danny.
Yeah. Thank you, Danny. Commissioner Fernandez, could I be so kind to ask you to tee up item number 12? Discuss retaining consultant for intensity and density.
If I may read the item into the record, thank you.
I'm going to ask Commissioner for, okay.
Thank you. Number 12, discuss retaining a consultant to conduct intensity, density, capacity analysis, including analysis and recommendations for individual zoning districts. Number 12. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an item that came out of the Land Use and Sustainability Committee, and it's about developing a comprehensive report on areas in our city that have capacity for density, what areas of our city are more built out, which areas of our city need more housing or need more retail space, how we have been in utilizing the zoning that we have in our city throughout different districts. That way we can plan better, that way we can pass better legislation, and that way the public that is looking to develop in our city knows which areas in our city have capacity for different uses. And I think this is especially important when we're talking about creating more residential or transforming our city, because we'll have a better understanding of those areas of our city that are overdeveloped, or those areas in our city that are in a desperate need for housing inventory, or the areas of our city where we may have way too much transient uses and we may need less of that. I see we have Debbie Tackett from our planning department. If you allow me, Mr. Chair, I'd like to recognize her to explain a little bit more about the necessity for this intensity and density capacity analysis.
Of course, but you've quite quickly learned the buzzwords to my heart, huh? Debbie, please.
Thank you, Commissioner, Mr. Chair. The Commissioner really summarized it very well. In your memo as an attachment, we have also included a 2008 study, which had a similar general concept of looking citywide at our development capacity and issued some recommendations for the city to accommodate what would be our maximum capacity. This was also referred to the Land Use and Sustainability Committee. They met I think I was on March 19th, and did issue a positive recommendation to have this included within our 2025 fiscal year budget process. The planning department does not have a cost estimate at this point. We have reached out to 4 of the firms through the procurement pre-approved list. We've heard back from one of those firms who asked us some questions. They said they need about 2 weeks additionally to provide us with some estimates. So we're waiting on that. We do expect this to exceed $75,000.
Debbie, thank you. When you say exceed, are we saying on the margin or like maybe up to 500,000?
I don't know. I think $500,000 is probably high. I can't imagine. But generally, these citywide type studies that also will need to look at infrastructure, they'll need information from the transportation department regarding our roadway capacity, are $100,000 or more.
Commissioner Fernandez, especially given your position as Chair of Land Use, I'm going to be highly dependent on you and the direction you want to take. I will leave it in your court if you want to wait 2 weeks and get a quantification of the cost of the study, or if you want to move forward and if it comes back as something egregious, then we can certainly pivot on the fly.
I think this is a study that our city is going to need moving forward. I think perhaps we can have the cost go to the full city commission, and we can decide there how to handle this.
Excellent. Would you like to make a motion? I'll be supportive.
Yes, I move that we fund this study contingent on hearing back from the planning department on how much it's going to cost.
I'll second that.
Excellent. All in favor?
If I could just clarify, Commissioner, the motion was for the 2025 fiscal year budget process, or?
Yes.
Okay, Very good, thank
It
you.
would be this would be to be considered a budget priority during the 2025 budget process. And hopefully between now and when the planning department brings this as a consent resolution for the whole commission to make that a budget priority, they would have that number incorporated by then.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
A consent resolution.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Happy Memorial Day weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Fitting as we hear the jets overhead. Commissioner Suarez, did you want to take a look at the 87 items of yours on the agenda and prioritize?
Yes, please. Just real quick, I think the waterway cleanup item is a pressing matter with.
Yep, so item number 11.
If I could see it, you, Chair, had asked for that to be linked to the other two. If I could read them into the record?
Yes, and if I believe one was number 6? No, I'm sorry, these are just on the sanitation ones.
Yeah,
correct?
11, 13, 14, and I'll read them into the
Is that
record.
fine with you, Commissioner Suarez?
Of course. Number 11, discussion regarding the increase in public works sanitation budget for waterway cleanup and maintenance, number 11. To be linked with number 13, discuss enhancing and expanding sanitation efforts for FY25, number 13. And number 14, discuss taking whatever action is necessary, including allocating funding to improve overall cleanliness and aesthetic appeal of the city's sidewalks, streets, and neighborhoods, number 14. Thank you.
Sure. So the waterway cleanup, we've had discussions about this. I pulled it actually from consent because I didn't think it was enough of an effort to really clean our waterways. I think it was one boat 2 times a week or 3 times a week. I brought the subject of perhaps maybe 2 or 3 boats, one for Mid Beach, North Beach, South Beach, since there's over 50% of the area of Miami Beach is water. It makes sense to have a more dedicated marine cleanup crew. I'm curious to know what you guys have. And then for 13, for Joe, discuss expanding sanitation efforts. This is something we talked about a couple months ago where, we walk down our streets. It's not the prettiest anymore. It really needs to be upkept. Pressure washing should be expanded to specifically residential areas. Because it's not currently, at least in most. So I'm very curious to see what you guys have, and through the chair, if I can hear, start with the waterway cleanup, that'd be great.
Good morning, Lindsay Prax, Assistant Director of the Environment Sustainability Department.
You're not on.
Oh, thank you. So again, Lindsay Prax, Assistant Director of the Environment Sustainability Department. As Commissioner Suarez noted, the existing contract, the waterway contractor, goes out 3 times per week, and they alternate between north and south among those 3 days, and they clean up inorganic material, so anything that's man-made. So this item had previously been at Public Safety back in November of 2022, and at that time we reached out to the existing contractor to receive quotes on an elevated level of service. And what that elevated level of service would include is a 5-day per week contract throughout the entire city, but also include the organic materials that are not currently being picked up. That includes floating seagrass, coconuts, any sort of lawn clipping debris. And the elevated level of service estimate for that contract would increase the existing contract from $160,000 per year to $520,000 per year.
Through the chair. That's 5 days a week. That's still 1 boat?
We're going through the negotiation process now. The RFP passed at the commission, and we received the go-ahead to enter into negotiations. They could add additional boats as part of that process.
And they actually calculate the amount, the weight of trash they pick up, right? Do you have that on hand?
Last year it was approximately 80,000 pounds.
80. So they pick up 80,000 pounds of trash from the water. This expected enhancement, what are they? Is there a ballpark of how much they're going to pick up?
They don't have an estimate right now because this elevated level of service does include additional organic materials that they have not picked up before. But what they did offer was to re-enter into a negotiation process if what they find that the disposal fees are lower.
And so it's not just coconuts, it's like palm fronds, right? If you know, palm fronds, they take forever to decompose or disintegrate in the water, even though it's natural, but it's unsightly, and it would completely change the sort of atmosphere of the waterways, right? Where you get to clean up that debris.
It could also decrease nutrient loadings because as these items decompose, they add nitrogen and phosphorus.
Anything to make the city cleaner. These massive changes go a long way. So I would make the motion for the full 230, well, do you want is it the 231 or the?
The 231 is what's already included in sanitation's budget. We're paying approximately $160,000 per year. This increased level of service would go up to $520,000.
I would make the motion to do the entire 520,000. We have, our waterways are so important. We have never dedicated the amount of resources that they need, so.
Yeah, I would second that.
Okay.
And also the biodegradable stuff, it traps the stuff that isn't biodegradable. Nobody wants to touch any of it, so.
It is gross.
Yeah.
And if you look at our resident survey and the results that we just received, it placed the cleanliness of our waterways and our canals as a priority that our residents want to see us improve on, together with, homelessness and other issues. But that was one of the priorities of the residents. So Commissioner Suarez, thank you for bringing this item forward. It's so important. Happy to support it.
And just for the record, this was staff's item. I just pulled it from consent to bring it, to add more teeth to it, or more meat and potatoes.
Wow, handsome and humble. So is there a motion?
Motion and a second to adopt the 520.
There's no
All in-
Yes.
If I could add, Chair.
Always feel free just to chime in. You have those.
Try to be
those
recognized first. Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to spotlight that the existing 231 is covered under current service level in these individual funds, but this increase, I believe, would be contemplated through the sanitation fund, which is already at a $2.8 million deficit. So there is no funds to actually do this. I know we discussed it in depth in the spotlight during our budget retreat. So this would just push that fund further deeper into a deficit situation. Thank you.
Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez.
I'm sure you can find the money, Jason. I'm gonna keep my motion for the 520, and you've been, I don't know if you have to take it out of, I know you've been trying to complete the reserves or whatever you need to do, but this is important because when we got that survey back from the residents, they were specifically saying that they think the city is dirty. Okay, so this needs to be, and it's gotten better, by the way. I would like to commend Joe and the whole team because it's been cleaner than it has ever been in the past. But still, it's not enough. So we know moving forward that we need to allocate more money to cleanliness, and this is just the first step.
We could look at the surface parking lot tree enterprise fund.
If I may, Chair, just to that about the raising the revenues, I know that we had during that discussion we had at the briefing, and I believe we have a sponsor that's going to look at some of those items to try to close that gap, which won't be enough. But if I'm hearing that this is the interest, there is the franchise fee rate which covers this. I believe there's a 2% rate that goes to environment sustainability to cover it. So if the interest is to try to cover that gap, the budget office can work with environment sustainability and the sanitation fund to see what revenue adjustment can be made to offset this item. And we can bring that back to commission also if that's interested to be entertained. We can discuss it through the budget process, obviously.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And did we take the vote, Mr. City Attorney?
No, you did not.
Okay, but we have a motion and a second, correct?
Yeah. Yes, you do.
Okay, all in favor?
And the motion is to return to commission with a favorable recommendation to increase the outlay for this service to $520,000 per year, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. as an income statement has not only expenses that we all love, it also has the revenue side. Let's go to item 31, which I believe will actually. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh.
Yeah.
I
13
mean,
and
we're already in
14.
a deficit.
13 and 14. So 13 was the.
Yes. So, good morning, Commissioners. Joe Gomez, Public Works Director. So, as Commissioner Suarez stated, he asked us to look at, looking at enhanced levels of service, for example, pressure washing, where we currently do not do in residential neighborhoods. So, our team came up with looking at the possibility of providing pressure washing in the residential neighborhoods twice a year. And the memo that we prepared has costs associated with that. There's also a code compliance component that would be associated with that, because we want to be sure that as we do the enhanced service, that the sidewalks are maintained properly. So we have the cost associated with that. So we're talking about an initial cost of about $800,000, and then a recurring cost of over $800,000.
Through the chair. So right now, we don't do any pressure washing cleaning in residential areas?
No, sir.
And then, so this 800,000 would be twice a year, so every 6 months, in every single residential area in Miami Beach?
Yes.
Okay. So, but one thing I've realized with the budget is, I know we just talked about enhancing the waterway cleanup and adding $500,000, but it just, to me, it seems, right, to me, it seems that we spend so much money on public safety. I mean, 63% of our budget goes, 61% of our budget goes to public safety, but how much of our budget's sanitation? 4%, 2%?
Sanitation budget overall of the city's budget?
I don't know, Tamika's here in the audience, our budget officer. She'll
She's
pull
good.
that up, the dollar value. I want to say it's 28 million.
It's nothing compared to the.
It's a mid-20s, yeah.
It's
3%.
It's 3% of our budget. That's something that, when you walk outside your house, you really see, if it's clean or not. And that's a quality of life issue. And Commissioner Gonzalez is right. That was the one part of the survey where we are kind of, we could do better. And so, I think, I personally, I think there's a longer discussion, but we should certainly balance the budget where, we may have to pull some funds away from other things. It's up for discussion. Pull funds away from other components of our budget and really beef up our sanitation, because having only 3% of the budget for Miami Beach, that's really low. I want Miami Beach to have the Disney standard. When you walk outside in Disney, everything is spick and span, and it's clean. And so I don't know if the mid-20s is enough for the sanitation budget. And I certainly don't think that we should be relying on, I think that there's only a handful of funds or revenues that come in. Maybe we need to enhance it from the general fund. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but certainly I don't think that 3% of the whole budget is really going to keep Miami Beach clean. And like I said, residential neighborhoods never get pressure washed. And imagine how happy our residents would be and their quality of life would be if, at least twice a year they walk out and everything's perfectly clean and their sidewalks don't smell and it looks brand new. I'd like to hear what my colleagues have to say about that.
Yes, I totally agree. I'm going to be supportive, but I think it just goes to broader discussions of course, it's the cliched, show me your budget, I'll show you your priorities as a city or as a government, but just kind of not related to this item specifically. there's all these tremendous initiatives that I think we're all being so diligent on really pushing forward for residential quality of life for the first time in a long time. I think that's being seen. But as we discussed at the budget retreat, with any push, there's a take, right? And more than anything else, I don't want to be the commission that busts our budget. So we really need to prioritize. Perhaps we need to all think of ways where we can also not only take on some of these tremendous cost expenses that are great initiatives, but look at ways we're able to enhance our revenue that we're taking in, to give us ways to do that. Because there's only, the last thing we want is to put forward all these wonderful initiatives and then they are just not possible. We'll be creating false expectations. We'll have to pull back. So while these are all wonderful in silos, these things add up, right? And we really need to be budget-minded as well. To an individual line item, all tremendous, and I applaud all of my colleagues for being so laser focused on residential quality of life, but we really need to start thinking about, kind of an order of operations and list of what's most important. Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez.
I'm so excited about this pressure cleaning thing because we've been very reactive. For example, and I'm glad I have you guys here. The other day I was walking on South Point Drive and we have the most beautiful corner of these gray tiles and they're filthy. It looks so bad. And I don't know if that's our responsibility, if it's the building's responsibility, but that should be pristine. And right now it's not. And I know that you guys will send a crew out there and clean it. But I don't want to see that ever, like how we send people out to the end of Lincoln Road, because it gets really disgusting there, especially around where the bus stops are. And that needs to be pressure cleaned almost every day. And I don't know what we would have to do in the budget, but in the morning, I go to other major cities. And they're out there every single morning cleaning the streets. So you're right, Commissioner Suarez. There has to be a rebalancing of the budget. And we do need to take this into account because we need to have pressure cleaners everywhere, every day.
Look, I think the reason why the commission is working well together is because we're quite unified in listening to residents. And what residents are telling us is we want a safe, clean, comfortable city, that we are not contending with people and events coming in from out of town doing things that don't enhance our quality of life, whether it's a marquee special event that maybe has run its course here or people who are coming in to stir up a ruckus. So I think it is going to require a very robust set of discussions during the budgeting process for next year and going forward, because we're going to need to, figure out what matters to us enough and what we're going to pull back from, or if we are going to have to take the tough stand and increase taxes, which nobody wants to do, obviously. But we're hearing from our residents what they want, and if they want clean, and we're going to. I think we all want clean. I know you guys want clean. And we want this to be the world-class city that it is. And we need to find a way to step up our game. And so it's going to be a very challenging budget process to figure out which of our children we love least. And, it's going to be rough. But we're hearing cleanliness and safety in a million different iterations, and this is a part of it. So, we're going to have to move forward.
Good news is I'm well versed on getting that child that my parents love the least. My sister's pretty impressive. So Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This goes to the very essentials of government. What is the essential services that government needs to be providing? A clean and safe community for people to live in. And I think I'm so excited to hear all of us kind of on the same page as it relates to this, because it's just reprioritizing, not spending as much perhaps on special events or other types of sponsorships, and redirecting those dollars to what our residents actually do want and are asking for. For example, on the beach walk, on the beach walk, there's areas of the beach walk that desperately need pressure cleaning as well. that we get emails from our residents on that they feel, that it's not being pressure washed enough, and that's, a facility that is one of our most successful facilities. And so, not to belabor the point, I want to move, or Commissioner Suarez, are you on the committee? You can't, no. So I'll move your item for you. I think this is our essential services that we need to be supporting. And at the end of the day, this is a commission that is listening to the residents, and we reprioritizing the use of their tax dollars to put them directly to their services. And so with that, I'll move the item.
Fantastic. I'm able to second, Mr. City Attorney?
Pardon me?
Am I able to second?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Okay. If I, as always, if I may clarify for the record the motion, and I believe it is, and the commissioner will correct me if I'm off. To return to the commission with a favorable recommendation to make a priority during the 2025 budget process to add residential area sidewalk pressure washing. Thank you.
And through the chair.
Of course.
14, I think 13 kind of covers 14 to a certain extent.
May I make a comment about the next one? Because we talked about sidewalks, and here's, I don't know, I might be pilloried by some residents for this, but I'm going to say it out loud and on the record. So there's a historic reason for our red sidewalks.
Yes.
Which is that we are rolling out the red carpet for our guests, which is lovely and charming. I would suggest that, I don't know what the appropriate action is, but I think it is working against us now. Anytime you make a repair, it is gray for a while, then the pigment is mixed differently from year to year. The batch will never match. It fades in the sun. It looks dirty even when it's clean. We did a walkthrough in North Beach a few weeks ago, and I specifically called out a patch of cement, and you're like, yep, clean as a whistle, because we just passed by it with our street cleaners, our pressure washer. I don't know what the process is, if this needs to go to a referendum to get communities to weigh in, or if we can just make that decision. I would suggest that our founding parents would be more interested in having clean sidewalks that are uniform in color than having mismatched pink, red, gray, spotted sidewalks that fade and are more likely to be more expensive to repair because you have to add pigment rather than just clean cement. So I don't know if that's a motion that could be made here for consideration, or if it has to go to the commission, or if
Neighborhoods.
What's that?
Probably go to neighborhoods.
Go to neighborhoods? I don't know what the process is.
Yes, I believe you would want to bring an item to commission to refer the matter to neighborhoods, because.
Okay.
Yeah,
Rick, can you add that to the June list?
of course.
Chair, if I may, I just wanted to get the recorded vote on the sidewalk pressure washing. I think there was a motion and a second, but there was no technical vote.
Yep, so let's call the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Show it passed unanimously. Thank you.
Excellent. Very quickly, because I think this should only be a minute or two, and actually, I believe gets revenue into the city, albeit a pretty small amount for minimal intrusion. Item number 31, the easement of air rights. Do we have city staff here to tee this up?
Yeah, I'll read that into the record, Chair. Number 31, discuss conveyance of air rights easement, MMS 7 Farley Lane, LLC. Ferry Lane, thank you, number 31.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a property that is connecting two different lots through a bridge. So they approached us about the air rights associated with that. We looked at our utilities in the area. There wasn't anything complicated. We did have an appraisal done, and based on the appraisal, we're recommending, we're okay with recommending the air rights granted, but with a benefit to the city.
And Joe, what would be the quantification of that benefit?
It's $803,250.
It's pressure washing for a year, huh?
Yes, sir.
How much?
$803,000.
What if we all volunteer for a couple shifts?
So when we do this, selling the air rights there, does that mean that that's going, where is it going? It's going to the hotel next, who's buying it?
It's the property, it's the property at 7 Ferry Lane, combining 6 and 7 Ferry Lane, connecting the two properties by the use of a bridge.
Is the neighborhood okay with that? Because I know that there were some complaints in that neighborhood about people overbuilding and the height of the homes. Commissioner Fernandez, you met with the neighborhood in Ferry Lane. I just want to make sure that all the neighbors know what we're doing there, because it's not going to change the alley, but if that home becomes some gigantic monolith because we have sold this, I don't think that's the right thing to do without going to the neighborhood first and asking if they're okay with that. And having them show the rest of their neighbors the home that they're planning on building.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Listen, this is something that we've heard a great deal from the neighborhoods there. The lots are quite small there. They have an issue that, some of these lots are really not buildable unless you build a really tall home, because they're so tiny. Allowing them to make this connection over the street allows them to do something that perhaps is a little bit more compatible, especially on Ferry Lane. I haven't heard opposition. If anything, when I tried to pass legislation to keep the character of the street, to reduce the height, and to keep something, more modest in scale, the opposition that we had from the neighbors on Ferry and Century Lane was significant. We had every attorney coming in, threatening all sorts of lawsuits against the city. So if anything, what I've heard from the neighborhood is, they wanna see the area continue to prosper, and that means, the homes need to really be consistent with the area. All the older homes, the older bungalow cottages are pretty much gone. And what you're ending up now is with these very tight lots that are getting overbuilt. This will give these two properties a little bit of a release by giving them a little bit more space.
So, if I may.
And ultimately, it goes to DRB, I think.
Yeah, you know what, I told Commissioner Dominguez, and then we'll go to you, Commissioner Bott.
Oh, sorry.
Jeez.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I am not on this committee, but I do live in Belle Isle, and I know that when this came up before land use last year, the neighborhood association was not in favor, so I just want to make sure that BIRA is consulted and that they know what's going on, because
Was it this item that came up?
yeah, with Wayne Pathman.
Okay.
It was the air rights, because they bought the house on the water and the one across the street, and it's next to the Standard.
Okay, I know that I had followed along when there was kind of an overlay.
No,
that
wasn't, this wasn't an overlay, it was this specific item.
Okay.
It's back.
Commissioner Fernandez, with that news, would you be okay if we defer this and got some input?
Sure.
I had followed closely your initiative, which I thought was amazing, but then you got feedback from the neighborhood, and you said, okay, they don't want that, and you put that to bed. So I commend you for, trying, but then even more so for pivoting. With this, I thought those two issues were separate, and I wasn't aware of the opposition here, so perhaps if we could shelve this for a month and have staff reach out and get the feedback from the neighborhood, because certainly that wasn't my understanding. I thank Commissioner Dominguez for bringing that to light.
We'll show the item heard and deferred.
Let's go to a time certain that we have. We actually have Mark down here for number 6. Is that correct? Okay, let's do that. Then we'll go to the noontime time certain. Let's hear number 6.
If I cue it up, number 6, discussion regarding any potential fiscal impact of establishing implementing and enforcing the proposed anchoring limitation areas to include any application and/or permit fees, the cost of permitting, installing and maintaining the requisite signs and buoys, and any personnel or other costs of enforcement. Number 6.
Good morning, Lindsay Practice Assistant Director of the Environment and Sustainability Department. So this item included a resolution 2024-32963 that was adopted requesting Miami-Dade County to establish ALAs or anchoring limitation areas in Miami Beach. There are restrictions on size, such as it cannot be greater than 100 acres and it can't exceed 10% of the navigable waterways. There was also a 2023 resolution that required ALAs to be established prior to the operation of the proposed mooring field. So as part of the 2023 resolution, what staff did was we requested to increase an existing capital project titled Waterway Markers and Signs to include those ALA proposals as part of that 2023 resolution. If the 2023 and 2024 resolutions are combined, it would be a total of approximately 44 signs and markers, design, permitting, and construction costs. That may change depending on recommendations and regulatory agency feedback. If those two again are combined, it would come out to $2,018,400, which is $500,000 for design and permitting, and then $1.5 million for construction.
Okay, through the chair. So I brought this item forward because this was a law that the state of Florida gave the counties the ability to set up anchoring limitation areas. And this sort of acts as its own mooring field without the mooring balls, because it limits the amount of time a vessel can be anchored within that limitation area. And so, you know, the issue with a mooring field is it just pushes the problem to another neighborhood. So, for example, in North Beach, where Commissioner Bott lives, right in front of the King Cole, there certainly seems to be an influx of liveaboard vessels permanently anchored in that area. And the intent of my item, and you can see on the map, is I covered almost every single anchoring spot possible in Miami Beach. And so correct me if I'm wrong, Lindsay, that's going to cover all of Miami Beach. So as opposed to the mooring field, which I believe is $2-3 million, and that's just one section of Miami Beach, this would cover every residential and any cove possible to anchor in, and that would get us covered. So this is going to take many years, and I'd like to see this started today, because it certainly seems that this trend of permanently anchored vessels, whether they're being parked or they're living aboard, it's growing, and so we need to, you know, take the appropriate steps and see that we have the right tools in the next couple of years to at least regulate it.
Right. I'm okay with any hard costs involved in this, but, you know, the enforcement component on this is 2 police officers, and what I would ask is that we get those police officers from within the force instead of adding more police officers.
Actually, the way the law is currently written through the state legislature, it's 45 consecutive days. After 45 consecutive days, you have to move your vessel, and so you don't necessarily need an officer to be coming around 45 days. You need just a camera, to be honest. Just point at the anchoring limitation area, and then you can count. You know, you can see how long it's been there, and then use that enforcement. So you use technology simply to enforce the law.
Well, somebody's gonna have to monitor it though, but what I would ask is that instead of adding 2 more positions, that we find them from within.
Yeah, I'm not on the finance committee, but I'm okay with that.
Plus, I'm sure we have a commissioner that would help out in enforcement efforts.
With his GoPro?
So is there a motion to be made?
I'll make the motion then, without adding any police
Yeah, do we-
officers. Any cost for hard equipment, but no additional police officers.
If I can, I believe I'm reading the item correctly, is that it's approximately a $2 million capital project, and that capital project is not currently in our capital program. Is that correct?
Correct. What staff did was we do have an existing waterway markers and signs project. So our proposal was to add it to that project. And we did, for the 2023 resolution, we did add the initial costs for the areas that were required for the mooring field to operate. These new 24 signs as part of the second resolution were not included when we submitted that request.
So the $2 million request would be a 25 request to add this additional appropriation to that existing. Okay, so in hearing that, Chair, if the motion is to make this approximate $2,018,400 capital project a budget priority during the 2025 budget process, is that what I'm hearing? And I'm not sure. I believe Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez made the motion. Is that correct? That you would make the $2,018,400 capital project a priority during the 2025 budget process? That's no enforcement, right?
Sure. Or where we're gonna get that money from, but, you know, sure.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Excellent. Commissioner Suarez, while you're here and want to get you to have time with your family for Memorial Day weekend, how about number 22, to start clearing some items? I don't think there should be a cost associated with that. This is consider incorporating a prohibition on plastic utensils. Staff, I hope I didn't eat my last words, no pun intended there with the utensils, but hopefully there's no cost associated with this.
I'll just tee this up for Lindsay.
If I could, I'm sorry, if I could just read into the record. This is number 22. Consider incorporating prohibition on plastic utensils in city's outdoor dining contracts and restaurant leases and devise incentives for establishments to adopt the Skip the Stuff initiative similar to other jurisdictions. Number 22. Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. So, one of the first things we passed was, reducing plastics in Miami Beach by doing the balloon prohibition. We are very limited as a municipality on limiting the amount of plastic that is in our city. And some of the ideas that were brought to me by Sophie Ringel from Clean Up Miami Beach was perhaps a program for takeout where they have the option of putting plastic in. So Lindsay, if you don't mind educating us on the program.
Definitely. So Lindsay, Practice Assistant Director of Environment Sustainability. As Commissioner Suarez mentioned, we are preempted from reducing plastics by the state of Florida, so it does restrict our ability to have a full-out ban. What we see is the three options for this item include skipping the stuff within the city's outdoor dining concession agreements. That's managed by the Public Works Department. The other would be to include skip the stuff in food service related leases managed by Facilities and Fleet. And then the other option is to integrate Skip the Stuff within the Plastic Free Miami Beach program. So what the Plastic Free Miami Beach program is, it's a voluntary program where we highlight businesses and educate them on the impacts of single-use plastics. And so we could really use this as an initiative to get that program even more off the ground.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Commissioner Fernandez actually moved the item. Yeah, and I second. All in favor? Tremendous initiative.
Thank you.
No, I think I messed that up. Sorry. Yeah, you just hated it. It's nice of you.
Chair, so the motion was to send this back to the commission endorsing the program?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Why don't we call up item number 38? I think we're, of course, going to wait to see if we do the noon time certain of 32. So why don't we call up item number 38? Do we have city staff here?
I'm going to read that. Let me go to read that item.
The whole thing?
Yes, I guess so. Number 38, discuss the resolution of the mayor and the city commission of the city of Miami Beach, Florida, accepting the recommendations of the Public Safety and Neighborhood Quality of Life Committee at its April 17, 2024 meeting to replace the Tesla Model X vehicle with a higher capacity Starcraft van operated on a fixed route, fixed schedule, similar to the former Miami bus route 115 to provide a more reliable and consistent connection between North Beach and Mount Sinai Medical Center, and to explore the feasibility of extending the proposed service to an existing bus stop located at 41st Street east of Alton Road to connect to Route 150 and waive the 5/7 vote, the formal competitive bidding requirement in Section 2-367E of the City Code, finding such waiver to be in the best interest of the city, and authorizing the interim city manager to negotiate and execute the following agreement in order to provide the fixed route, fixed schedule transit route to a portion of the city's area previously served by bus route 115, which route was eliminated by Miami-Dade County as of November 13, 2023, as part of the Better Bus Network. Interlocal agreement with Miami-Dade County, Florida County, providing funding to the city for a fixed route, fixed schedule transit service, and to an amendment to the professional services agreement with Be Free LLC DBA Freebie to include a fixed route, fixed schedule transit service as part of the scope of the Freebie agreement, provided however, that the city at a minimum has secured a letter of commitment from the county to fund the enhanced fixed route, fixed schedule service. Number 38. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an item that we had at commission with a recommendation to proceed with a service provider to provide a fixed route option to replace the former Route 115. The former Route 115 that was done away with as part of the implementation of the Better Bus Network was a bus that would pretty much connect North Beach with Mid Beach. And it would go all the way south, actually, I think all the way to Lincoln Road, I believe. And it was an essential service also if you worked at Mount Sinai or you're a patient of Mount Sinai, you're trying to get from North Beach to Mount Sinai, that's important. We also have the bus, I think it's the 120 that goes to the airport.
150.
150, I'm sorry, the 150. I always get that confused. That if you're North Beach, it's harder to access the 150 to get to the airport, and vice versa. If you live out in West State and you work somewhere in North Beach, you would depend on the former 115 to make that connection up to North Beach. So the Better Bus Network did away with that. I brought an item to see how we could somehow restore that service. Commissioner Laura Dominguez, our vice mayor, has been very involved with this as well. With the support of the administration, we started an on-demand service option with Freebie that showed, what it showed was that there is still a demand of passengers that need that connectivity between North Beach and Mid Beach. And because of that, what we looked to do was, okay, let's restore, instead of having an on-demand service, let's restore a fixed route to meet the demands for connectivity there. What came forward was to enter into an agreement with Freebie to provide that fixed route service. Now, Freebie is an on-demand service provider, but in this case, they would be providing a fixed route service. When the item went to commission, we heard from our fixed route provider that they used to provide the Route 115 service, and that they were willing to come in and to re-provide the service with the city at pretty much the same cost that Freebie was offering. So I said, let's send this back to the Finance Committee so that we can analyze both options, and we can send back to the City Commission a new recommendation, getting the feedback from the administration and seeing what would be the best option for us.
Commissioner Rosen-Gonzalez.
I'm so glad you brought this item forward because I was up at Stella Maris a few weeks ago. And the seniors have no way to get to the supermarket now. They don't understand calling the freebie.
Freebie is hard.
And so there's a certain amount of expediency. So when I asked them, they said, Surfside used to share that bus route. And I called the mayor of Surfside and I spoke to him and he said, well, what we've done is we engaged on-demand freebie. Now, what's interesting about this, because it's the same route, is that we could probably lower our costs just by calling Surfside and splitting it with them or adding to what they're doing with freebie right now and switching that to fixed. So what I would suggest we do is contact Surfside, because literally the people who need that are right up there on the border of Surfside, and somehow work it out financially so that we restore a fixed route and we use the freebie service that they're already using. They're very happy with it. They said that, they engaged it and it's worked very well. So.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to recognize.
Oh, please, yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. Jose Gonzalez, Transportation and Mobility Director and Interim Parking Director. And if I may ask PJ to pull up a quick one or two page comparison of the two vendors, Freebie and LSF. And thank you, Commissioner Fernandez, for recapping the item very thoroughly. The only point of clarification that I would like to make is that while Freebie is predominantly an on-demand service provider, they do provide a fixed route, fixed service, fixed route, fixed schedule service. They're currently providing that in the city of Miami for a couple different neighborhoods, for downtown Miami, for Coconut Grove, and they also provide it for another city in somewhere else in Florida, Central or North Florida. That was the only point of clarification that I wanted to make. And also just to explain how we got to this point. As Commissioner Fernandez pointed out, the conversations with the county, we've been working with the county for several months now, they've evolved. This started as an on-demand service. Freebie as the provider, approved by the county, in fact, with a funding contribution approved by the county. Based on the data that we collected, we saw that there was an unmet demand that was occurring in the afternoons, which a Freebie Tesla vehicle was not able to accommodate. And so at that point, we shared that data with the county and the county agreed. And then the conversation turned more towards a fixed schedule, fixed route service with a higher capacity vehicle. With Freebie still being the vendor that was providing that service, then we continued to engage Freebie in those conversations, and they indicated that they can provide a van, a Starcraft van that with 22 feet in length, with a capacity of 14 passengers, which we feel would meet the demand. And then, as Commissioner Fernandez pointed out, this was at the May 15th commission as a resolution, but in light of a letter that we received from LSF, who's currently our fixed route, fixed service provider for our citywide trolley service, we received a letter from them the day before commission stating that they would be interested and very capable in providing the service, and that's why we're before you today. And I wanted to share some of the most salient criteria regarding the two services. I will note that LSF can go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah.
I'll note that LSF can actually provide the service immediately because they operated Route 115 in the past. They have a vehicle already at their disposal available. They can wrap it at their cost. And so that service could actually start quicker than the Freebie service. Freebie would have to procure a vehicle. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So just to get some additional information here. So with Freebie, we would be entering into a contract until 2028. Is that correct?
We still have about 3 years, so I would say 2028.
But so with this fixed route, we would now have Freebie providing this fixed route through 2028.
Potentially they could. We have funding only for 2 years.
Okay.
from the county.
And currently, we have a fixed route contract with LSF.
Correct.
And with them, right now, our fixed route contract is month to month.
That's correct.
And we're currently in a solicitation for our fixed route options. Is
That's
that correct? Okay. And so if we go with Freebie, we could potentially then end up with two different providers for fixed route, potentially. Because right now we have month to month with LSF that's out in solicitation. And then we would enter into a separate fixed route contract with Freebie.
That would be, if we go with Freebie, that would be the, let's call it the immediate course of action. But however, once we have a contract with a fixed route, fixed service provider for our next generation municipal transit circulator service, we could negotiate that, let's call it the Route 115 fixed route, fixed schedule service as part of the citywide fixed route, fixed schedule service.
But that's that's my question. So if the city commission were to, follow through with Freebie at the city commission meeting, how long would that commitment be for?
Well, as we speak, we have a funding commitment for 2 years from
For 2
Miami-Dade
years.
County. Beyond that, we have to identify a funding source, and if.
So we will be
even want to
committed with
continue-
Freebie for 2 years?
Yes.
Okay, and so, but then if we enter into a new contract with with a fixed route provider, what happens if that fixed route provider is not Freebie? How do you now get that service as part of that contract? Are you going to have two overlapping contracted services?
No, we would include the 115 service as part of the new contract that we would negotiate with the fixed
So you
route
would have to
provider.
terminate the agreement with
With
Freebie. And so, but
Or at
it does
least
make.
not the entire agreement, because Freebie also provides on-demand service.
Right,
So-
right, but that 115.
portion, that service. yes,
Right, so
would
then wouldn't it
transition.
make, so for me, it just seems, just procedurally, it's nothing against Freebie, because I love Freebie. I use Freebie all the time, and I think that is a great service, and they offer great products and great vehicles. And I love the convenience of just using the app, and it's just fantastic. I'm a big fan. But given the process that we are in the middle of right now, I just don't like the process of entering into an agreement with one service provider, then potentially finding ourselves in a situation having to midterm in a contract, having to cancel, to then change providers, to go with the process with the provider that comes out of the solicitation, from the competitive solicitation. So what I feel more comfortable doing is, I believe with the slide that you showed, Jose, with LSF, it's a month-to-month agreement, is that correct?
That's correct.
So with LSF, we can be month to month, so that once the competitive procurement process tells us who should be operating the fixed route service on a permanent contract, then they can continue with this as part of the fixed route option that we have. And that's what I would feel more comfortable with. That's not to say that it won't be Freebie, because I don't know even if Freebie has bid in the contract. But in the meantime, this seems to be the cleaner thing. There are our current fixed route option, LSF. They can do it month to month, so that whoever wins the ultimate contract can just assume the fixed route option.
Yeah, I like those comments. Thank you for those, Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez.
But if Surfside's using fixed route Freebie and they're 95th Street down to 41st Street, why wouldn't we just split the cost with Surfside and go with what they have right now? We could probably reach out, extend the service, and pay half price.
I have no idea what.
Jose, have you reached out
what
to
Surfside is
Surfside?
doing.
I did have a discussion with Surfside, but it was in another, on another context, but their circulator service would not come all the way down into Mount Sinai, and we're looking at even an extension over to 41st and Alton Road. So I doubt very much the Surfside shuttle would do that, or the Surfside service would want to do that.
One of the things, Commissioner, that I was trying to do was not only get it to Mount Sinai, which was important, but also extend it all the way up to 41st Street so that then we can provide connectivity to Route 150. That is what gets the workforce, from the airport all the way into Miami Beach, and when you're dealing with people that live in the Fontainebleau area, the Flagami area, the city of Miami, and all that, a lot of that is the workforce that work in a lot of our hotels and in North Beach and all that. They need that connectivity. And being able to make that connection with the Route 150 and Route 115 makes sense to me. Also, I don't know, I know the county's involved with this. I know depending the funding source, you're limited on cross-jurisdictional use of funds. So if Miami-Dade County, depending on their funding source that they're using to help pay for this, you might be limited only being able to use it within the confines of your jurisdiction. And then the moment it crosses into another jurisdiction, there are some issues that come into play. So I don't know enough of what Surfside is doing and the funding source from the county. And I don't want to complicate this right now. Then also by now, we have one fixed route provider, and we're going to bring another fixed route provider in the middle of a procurement process, and we don't know what the procurement process is going to yield. So it's better, from my perspective, do the cleanest thing. Go month to month with your current fixed route provider, and once there's a recommendation from the administration and the selection committee on who should be the permanent fixed route provider, have them just follow the continuation of the service. What matters to me is not the vendor, is continuity of Route 115.
Yeah, I don't want to use the wrong words. I almost feel as if we'd be giving an unsolicited bid at this point if we would just interject freebie into this process when a solicitation process is out. Jose, is the ultimate end goal, I noticed on that, that LSF is a month-to-month contract now. Is the ultimate goal at the end of this solicitation process to have a more fixed term?
Yes, absolutely, with a selected vendor.
Yep.
Whoever that may be.
Okay.
I was just going to add on to the commissioners. My prior role as the assistant city manager at Surfside, I worked on a lot of this, and the commissioner is absolutely correct. When your fixed route goes a certain percentage into another municipality, it becomes very complicated. It involves a number of interlocal and MOUs that would have to be executed, approved by the county. And I worked on that on a multi-jurisdictional one, and I think I worked on it for 2 years, and we never got it across the goal line. So if there was an interest in that, this is nothing that would be coming in anytime soon.
And it became a very controversial policy matter at the Board of County Commissioners when they tried to change the policy governing that funding source so that it could go over municipal jurisdictional lines. It became a very muddy and controversial process.
Yeah, the commissioner is absolutely correct. I had firsthand knowledge of that.
And do you want to make a motion for that? I like how you teed this up, and absent commentary to the contrary, I think that's how you made a compelling argument to me.
Yeah, and again, I am a freebie fan. Everyone should download the freebie app. We have a great freebie service in our city, and I encourage everyone to use it. But in this case, LSF was providing the service, so I'm going to make a motion that we just continue Route 115 with LSF on a month-to-month basis, and then once a contract is awarded for the fixed route service, that whoever does that this be incorporated, that Route 115 be reincorporated into our fixed route contract with whoever is the awarded vendor for it.
Excellent. Also, I'll second that. You agree with all of that?
I could hear that side.
I could, okay, I was going to repeat it.
Just please don't read the item again.
Don't read the title again.
We'll make the title shorter, Jason.
So I move the item.
Second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Bott, how do you feel about item 32? Would you like to hear that?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear item number 32 at a 12 PM time certain.
Thank you. Item 32, levels of service and funding for city services in North Beach compared to other areas of the city. Number 32.
So, hello.
Good afternoon.
We got the matching pink shirt memo. So I'm not going to take anything away from you. I wanted to have this analysis done. I'm not sure there are going to be action items required as a result of this, but it will probably inform conversations going forward. So before you even start, thank you for the very hard work that you and your team have done on this.
You're welcome. Good afternoon, Tamika Stewart, Budget Director. This actually has a presentation attached, so PJ, if you could pull up the presentation. Okay. So, as Commissioner Bott said, this was referred by the City Commission to take a look at the costs that we're expending in North Beach as compared to other parts of the city. So the goal is to just see where we are landing and to have some informed decisions in the 25 budget process. So before we jump into the results of the analysis, we did want to share some supporting data that would probably help inform where we landed. So one of the data points we pulled up is the property tax revenues that we collect based on location. So from the slide, you can see the majority of the revenues, 53% of our property tax revenues come from the South Beach area. North Beach coming in last at 16%. But we also looked at the data by population. South Beach has the highest population, 10% more than North Beach, and then Mid Beach coming in third. Square miles per area, Mid Beach has the #1 number of square miles, followed by South Beach and North Beach. And then we actually looked at the operating budgets versus the capital budget. So first we'll talk about the results of the operating budget. And we did focus on police, code enforcement, and also sanitation. So one point we wanted to make before we go into the data is that we started the analysis first with all funds, and then we broke that down separately because there are certain funds in the city that we only can spend them in dedicated areas. Those include the city center RDA, the North Beach CRA. Those can only be spent in specific areas within the boundaries of the CRA and the RDA. And then the resort tax funding has to be spent on tourist eligible expenditures. And so for the purpose of the analysis, we removed those budgets from the numbers. So what you see here is for the police department, on the left side, that pie chart actually shows the all-in cost. So if you did look at the overall budget, it is 46% to South Beach, 26% to North Beach. But when we isolate the funds that are dedicated to specific areas, South Beach becomes 38%. And if you look at all three, we're pretty close to almost a third for each area for police. For code compliance, before we take out those areas, we're at 45% South Beach, North Beach at 28%. Again, when we take those areas out, South Beach is higher by 10% than North Beach. And then Mid Beach and North Beach are actually almost exactly the same. And then for sanitation, we start off with 59, almost 60%. But when you take out those areas, South Beach is 42%, still higher, but North Beach is second and Mid Beach is last. And when we get to the end of the presentation, I actually have a slide that has all the data all together, so you can look at the numbers together. On the capital side, what was important to share?
If I might, just before you go any further, can you just tell the numbers of population by area? I know that was one of the new slides that was added.
Yeah, let me go back. Here you go. So South Beach has 36, North Beach has almost 28, and Mid Beach has 20,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so what was important to share about the capital budget is that each year, as a part of the capital budget process, the departments provide what's needed, regardless of funding availability, regardless of the location of the project. So wanted to share that before, and the numbers that you'll see here are based on the FY 24 to 28 CIP, which is a 5-year plan. So again, without taking out any special units, again, South Beach is coming in heavy at 47%. When the CRA and the RDA and the resort tax eligible expenditures are taken out, South Beach it's still 47%. North Beach goes up to 33%. Middle Beach is 20%. What I did want to note, though, is that when you go into the details of the South Beach projects, almost 300,000 of that 300 million of that 500 million are for utility projects. So this includes West Ave projects, a lot of waterway restorations, and so it's basically where the needs are for our capital projects. So this is the final slide, and it just summarizes where we landed. It shows, the rankings by population, square miles, property taxes collected, and then also the ratio for police, code, sanitation, and CIP, and then the overall ranking. Overall, South Beach does, get 45%, and North Beach gets 33%. So Mid Beach is actually the section that's getting the least coverage for these 3 areas.
And just going back to the point you just made about the chunk of projects in South Beach being so much higher, because it's not just capital improvements like West Ave or First Street, but it's also the police station and the other sort of city-owned and utilized across the city. Okay.
Including like the convention center or sanitation facilities that, services everybody, but some of their facilities just happen to be in South Beach.
Okay. And so that was 300 out of the 500 million?
Well, the 300 was for the utility projects only.
So do you have it with the other things that aren't utility projects?
We did not include it because when we did, it only reduced the split by 2%.
Okay.
So immaterial.
Okay.
What about Mid Beach is only 24%?
Yeah. If we keep the slide up too much longer, I'm gonna have Mid Beach residents calling me to complain.
I'd be happy to share this.
Next slide.
Let's move on.
That's why
thank you.
I'm trying to plant some trees.
There you go.
Well, listen, it's very important information. I think this commission is very interested in making decisions driven by data and facts as opposed to anecdote and speculation. And so this is useful information for us to chew over and ponder. And I know it took a lot of work to get here. I'm sure I'll come back with questions, but you can be relieved that I don't have any at this moment.
And if you could send to us so we could repost on Facebook.
I do have a comment. Perhaps what each one of these areas need to counter, not to counter, but to balance the anecdote are area managers that see things through the optics of all departments.
If only we had an item off for that.
We should also have a whole separate council for each
Commissioner
neighborhood.
Rosenthal, did you have?
No, I was just going to request a copy of the PowerPoint because it's got a lot of good information in it that I'd never seen before. So,
Or I'd be happy to email that.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
I just wanted
Well,
electronically.
we need to get the new slides when you have a chance.
I'll send
Thank
that today.
Thanks for the great work on this. Tamika.
Thank you.
Any action items?
Not yet. I'm sure there will be things that we will use this as a reference point for, but at this moment, I don't know how you disseminate it with to the entire commission, because I think it would be beneficial for everybody to see it.
We'll have, the budget office will email out a
I'll
PDF
just-
copy of the presentation to the entire commission so that they're aware of it, especially including the updated slides.
Yeah.
Thank
okay.
you.
I'll just blind copy everybody.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tamika. Thank you for everybody on that. Let's call some public safety items, number 7 and 10. Mr. CFO, I think your recommendation, we hear these together.
Yes, correct, and I will read them in. Number 7, discuss take action, recent spike in criminal activity, North Bay Road, Venetian Islands. Number 7. Number 10, discuss recommendations and plan for addressing the real-time staffing needs for the upcoming Real-Time Intelligence Center project. Number 10. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Yes, Major.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee and staff. Eric Garcia, a Major of Police Tech Services. I'm here today to discuss an important item, which is the Real-Time Intelligence Center. As you know, this is a priority item, as we've discussed in neighborhoods just recently and commission. This is a very high priority item for the police department and for the city. We've established all of the requirements that we needed for the physical build-out of our facility, and this particular item, both of these items really deal with what our staffing requirements would be. So currently, we have 2 positions that are funded. We have 1 incumbent employee. We have 1 vacancy that we're looking to fill. That is the extent of our current staffing for the Real-Time Intelligence Center. What we're asking through this item and through the 25 budget is for an increase in 4 positions. These will be non-sworn positions. The title of the job is Real-Time Crime Specialist. That's what we'll be requesting through the 25 budget as an enhancement. We have our financial team members here if they to present financials on that if necessary, but that's what we'd be requesting through the 25 budget.
Yeah, thank you, Major. Appreciate that. And yeah, if we could have the team come up, I'll just tee up some questions on your way up here. This is part of the GEO Bond initiative that we paid quite significant amount of money for the Real-Time Crime Center. Is that correct?
The physical build-out, yes, sir.
Yep. And this is the personnel cost that's related to that. Were there, and I don't know if Maria's here, if not, were there personnel costs that were in the GEO Bond, or was that just for the hard costs?
I can answer that. The GEO Bond would only be for the capital cost. The operating cost will be borne on the general fund.
Okay. And what was the cost of that?
Of
For
the Real-Time Crime Center?
Any ballpark?
Sorry, I don't remember it. I know it's a multi-phase project. Do you remember the overall budget for the Real-Time Crime Center build out?
We're talking the millions of dollars.
It was several $1 million, and I believe it was an overlay of GEO Bond with additional PAYGO dollars as the project grew a little bit in scope. But
Yes,
it's
sir.
fully funded.
That's correct.
And Major, when you say that these will not be sworn-in officers, I would presume then that there's a cost offset there, that these would almost be akin to in-house park rangers that are monitoring the time center.
That's correct. The job description that we've created for this particular job, which we already have an incumbent for, is a real-time crime specialist. It's a non-sworn position. We enhance the Real-Time Intelligence Center with sworn officers, especially those that are recovering from an injury or have some other reason to be off the road. Obviously, we'll use whatever resources we have in our department to do it, but this would be our 25 funding request.
Yep, excellent. And please feel free to just chime in. What is the cost if we were going out using a veteran senior officer to staff the Real-Time Crime Center versus having one of these non-sworn officers? Any ballpark estimate?
Not an estimate, but it's a significant difference.
I can give you the number. I believe first year will be somewhere in the 180-ish range, 180, 190 first year, because you have a lot of equipment purchases and things like that, vehicle, so.
But the ongoing personnel costs?
Right, that would be for one sworn officer, I believe, is the first year budget. So this is definitely a cost-efficient way to handle the situation.
So the 180 is for the sworn officer?
Correct.
Okay, and what is the allocated amount per personnel here?
For this position, it's about $89,000 per year, and that includes benefits such as healthcare, pension, and other benefits.
Okay, so significant over 50% cost savings of this. Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez.
I would tell the police department to look within their budget and reorganize instead of us continuing to just dump more money into the budget. We've already seen that it's a large percentage of our budget. You know, once you create these positions and these line items, it's almost impossible to redo. I would tell them to go and figure it out. Because, you know, what is our total budget right now for the police department? What is it per year?
I don't have the specific number. I know
I
it's over
guarant-
100 million per year.
Over 100 million per year, I would say, find the money. I'm sure you can. That's my position on this. I can't believe that, we continue to add money. Because it's not like, look, I love and I support our police officers, but eventually this is going to become, like I said, a terrible situation like you have at MDCPS, where there is no money for student toilet paper because it's going into salaries. And so every single time that we do this, we are putting ourselves in a precarious situation. We have just added so many different police officers. I see them out there. I would reallocate, figure out where you're putting your staff, and staff the center with what you have. That's my position. And I'm going to go public. I'm going to talk about this a lot. Not because it has nothing to do with the police department. It has to do with our allocation. We spend responsibly. So I'm going to, really, lean into, you got over 135 million, work with the 135 million that you have.
So while I don't totally discount that premise, and I think there could be merit in some situations, in something like this, I actually view it as somewhat almost of a cost savings, because their alternative would be to have a sworn officer sitting there manning the cameras at a cost of $200,000 versus if we can have somebody that doesn't need those qualifications. It would almost be like telling a hospital to go out and have a doctor making a doctor's salary but perform nurse duties. They'd be able to, but you'd have these overqualified, overpaid people, professionals doing something that they are being overpaid for. So we'd be paying $200,000 to have somebody sit there and view something for what we could be paying $60,000. So while you make some valid points, and we can certainly discuss that, I think we can't paint with a broad brush, and in selective areas where this needs to be manned, I'd rather man it at lower cost positions versus having our officers off of the streets where we need them out there, and have people that are don't need those qualifications, don't need to be sworn, and actually being paid less.
I disagree. I think sitting in the real-time crime center instead of like sitting in your car on your phone and you've got the cameras looking everywhere, I would staff within what we have for now at the beginning. And I would be very hesitant to increase any budget moving forward. And I think it will also, instead of just saying yes to everything, really questioning and looking at these line items. I would love to bring in an independent auditor to look at our police budget and figure out where we could actually find dollars before we continue to. I think the best thing that we could do is find an expert police auditor to look at our department's budget and say, this is where you're spending too much. This is because we don't know. And so we say yes. And we say yes, and I ascribe to what Commissioner Bott said. We want to use data. And right now, we don't really know. I have not analyzed the budget. None of us have. What we do know is that it's growing and it's swelling, and we're not necessarily seeing that big of a change in service. So in my opinion, and I might bring an item forward to this, I think that we need to do some digging before we continue to add dollars to the budget.
Commissioner Bott or Fernandez?
I have a tangentially relevant question before we talk about headcount. The cameras currently, so the goal is to have cameras throughout the city. They currently go up to about 18th or 23rd Street, right? Is that?
We have cameras all over the city.
We do have cameras. Because I was told when we did the beach walk bike thing, which is a totally different topic, but one of the things that came out was that there were posts for the cameras without cameras on them. So are we at our full amount of cameras that we were planning to deploy?
Well, if you're speaking only about the beach walk is an ongoing camera project, so that's not completed yet.
Okay.
But yes, we have police cameras all over the city.
So do we also need to fund additional cameras, or is that part of the GEO bond money that just hasn't been deployed yet? Or explain that bit to me, because to me, it's part and parcel of the same conversation.
This particular item, Commissioner, we're not asking for any additional camera funding.
But well, I guess, and maybe Jason, maybe you know, I don't know if Maria's still here, but, excuse me. If we're not, are we complete, other than the beach walk, on our cameras for the Real-Time Crime Center program? And if we're not, where are those dollars coming from?
Hello. There are a lot of cameras that have been installed as part of the GeoBond program. There are many more to install, and some of those will not be GeoBond funded.
And I can answer
Commissioner, yeah,
that. And I can answer that. In last year's capital budget, there were a number of security camera capital program projects. I can't remember the specific number, 2 or 3 or 4, and we were able to fund all of them last year. So there are a number of projects that were requested, and all of them were funded in the '24 budget process. So they're either in progress or completed.
So there is no outstanding amount of cameras that have not been installed because they aren't funded?
I would say from an appropriations basis, my understanding is, and I have to go back and look at the '25 budget request. I don't think there were any, but there were a number in '24 were funded. So they may not be completed, but as far as I know, I believe they've all been appropriated.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I misunderstood your question. We don't look at the Real-Time Crime Center as a start to finish, including all the cameras. The cameras will continue to be installed in every city park, parking garage. Every new project that comes up will have independent funding that we try to include at the time that the project is designed to include public safety cameras. So we look at the camera expansion as an ongoing process.
Okay. Okay. So those that have already been identified as cameras where they are needed are currently appropriated. They just might not be installed. And then going forward on a rolling basis, as the opportunity presents itself to install a new camera, then it will be built in as part of the project cost.
That's exactly what we try to do with every
Okay.
project. And we do have some capital projects that, some parks and stuff that we've done. Part of the project has been done, meaning infrastructure work was done at the time that the project was completed,
But we
but
haven't
no
installed.
cameras. Yes.
Okay, so thank you, because that will help me answer the questions that I've been getting. So to this particular conversation, and thank you for letting me take you on a scenic detour.
It's a freebie.
You know, we just have been talking about the things that our community wants most is to feel safe and to feel like the city's clean. So we do have an enormous police budget. We have enormous demands on our police staff. And in theory, the Real-Time Crime Center will alleviate some of the, no pun intended, the legwork of what people out on the street are doing, because we can deal with things in a different manner. I'm going to make a favorable recommendation to move this forward because I think it needs more conversation. I think all the points that have been raised are valid. I don't know if there is a separate accounting or audit that has ever been done, because even with the most well-intended budgets, you know, fresh eyes. When I was in a different life, my least favorite answer to things was, well, this is how it's always been done. Like, don't even question it. And sometimes it takes a fresh set of eyes to say, oh, you know what, but that's already being done here, so we're in effect doing it twice. Maybe we don't need to do it that way anymore. So it's not, I'm not at all casting aspersions. I'm just saying that it may be an opportunity, there may be an opportunity to take a fresh look and see if we can reallocate some of the money that's being earmarked for something over here to something over there. That being said, I think that we do need people committed to doing this, and any enhancement of the service levels in the Real-Time Crime Center with people who are out recovering from being sick or whatever, that's a bonus, that's great, but we do need people, and I would prefer to use less expensive people than more expensive people. So I'm not sure where I'm going to net out on this. I don't know how quickly we can do an audit of the budget. I don't think it's going to be super quick, but you know, I think that's a conversation that needs to be contemplated as well.
Commissioner Fernandez. And thank you, Mr. Chair. For me, it's pretty simple. I mean, I see this as a force multiplier. You're able to get eyes in more areas of the city using more efficiently human capital. And that is why the Real-Time Crime Center, and I hate we call it the Real-Time Intelligence Center, because this is about crime. This is about abating crime in our community. And so it's why the Real-Time Crime Center has been so important for me since the first day that I got elected, and, pushing facilities management to move forward with it, working with our city administration to bifurcate it from the rest of the GEO bond project with the renovations of the police department. But our investment in this, Real-Time Crime Center, in the facility itself, means nothing if we really don't staff it properly. And we help our officers be more efficient with the bodies that they have by leveraging this technology. And the reality is, every day we're spreading them thinner and thinner. I mean, just the reality of it. When did we complete the beach walk? We completed the beach walk when? I guess it was just a couple of years ago. That was more green space and more public space where we had to put them at. Now we're asking them to take a more aggressive approach on our waterways, because the increased activity on our waterways. We're having to do increased details with our religious institutions because of the public safety threats. We're doing undercover investigations with drugs and other types of stuff. And just throughout, the list goes on and on and on, and how every single day we're asking our police department to do more and more and more. And so, I think our electorate has spoken very clearly. Public safety is their top priority. And this is where we need to be investing dollars in public safety, protecting life and property, and leveraging the ability to leverage technology properly so that we can more efficiently use our precious police resources where we need it most. I'm fully supportive of it. It makes sense. Is the direction we need to be going in, and I'm happy to move the item.
Thank you. And Major, I don't want to prolong this. Quick questions. I think I have an idea of how operationally the center works, but I believe there's a fatal hit and run on Washington Avenue, 13th and Washington, a few weeks ago. Suspect kind of ditched his car, got out. Something like this in real time. I would presume that somebody sitting there looking at those cameras can sit there and point to the police, hey, he's going east on 7th Street. You know what, now he's good. Right? Something like that helps types of crimes like that be solved in real time. The incident with me where somebody creates a violent assault, and I have no idea how the police department caught him. Hats off to them, but the best time to catch him is when? Is right when the crime's occurring, right? That people are sitting there monitoring our cameras saying, oh, the guy that just ran out of the garage on West Avenue, you know what, he just went south on 2nd Street.
Yes, yes, Mr. Chair, that's exactly how we envision this working. One misconception that I'll say is that we have people monitoring cameras. Yes, we have people watching, but the chances of you catching something while you're watching 1,500 cameras is very little. The real value in this, in the intelligence center, is having someone that can instantly respond to that call virtually and begin working that call backwards. So you can, if there are cameras in that area, we can start looking at, well, when did this person arrive? We can start playing back cameras. We can start playing back cameras back further to maybe all the way back to where they originally came into the city. We can work in license plate readers. We can work in the drone footage if a drone is up. So yeah, that's exactly how it should work. An operator would immediately start working with the units on the ground to investigate that particular crime that just occurred.
Excellent. And while you won't find somebody that's more budget conscious than myself, I don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish. Like Commissioner Fernandez, this is a force multiplier. One of the things I enjoy most about serving with people smarter than I is picking up vocabulary from both my colleagues to the left. Very supportive of this item. I think there's merit to some of the other issues that were raised here today that we'll discuss in due time. But for this is critical. It would just be silly to sit here and invest millions and millions of dollars in the GEO bond and then sit there and say, you know what, we all of a sudden have a new hill we're going to die on, and we're going to staff this with staff that's going to be 4 times as expensive as these new positions that we're hiring. So I'll second Commissioner Fernandez's motion.
Chair, if I may, 2 items. One, I have a recommendation that might be helpful to Commissioner Bott's question about staffing plans. The police department about 2 years ago did do an updated third-party outside analysis staffing plan. So I spoke with the police, and they'll reach out to you to sit with you and walk through that, and then you can determine if you have anything you want to take forward on that. So that might be helpful to handle that. And then for the motion, as always, let me try return to the commission with a favorable recommendation to prioritize during the 2025 budget process for the staffing plan for the Real-Time Intelligence Center as presented. Correct.
Excellent. And then as related to number 7, if I could request, this is the discuss, take action, recent spike in criminal activity, North Bay Road, Venetian Islands. If we could also expand that to the Star Palm Hibiscus Islands, just because I was reading about a very high profile car robbery that happened there the other week. Can I ask that we follow up with the LTC? I really liked my colleague Commissioner Dominguez when she was chairing the Neighborhood and Public Safety, closing items out, but getting some follow-up. If you could just do a LTC about recent possible incidents that we've had here. I was made aware of several over the past couple of months, so just that we're able to kind of keep that on our radar.
So just to be clear, you want to go back this year, 24?
Yes, this year, 24. That'd be great. Thank you, Major.
Yes, of
Just
course.
on that, it seems, we've talked about it in some of the working groups that I'm involved with, but it seems really frustrating because these high-profile, very expensive car heists are because people don't have the common sense to take their keys into the house. It's great that you have a nice guard at the island at the entrance of the island. It's great that you have a locked fence, but if you don't lock your door and take your keys into the house, people driving by will know with the fancier, newer cars, if your little mirror ears are out, it's unlocked, and if your little mirror ears are in. So it's just advertising, please come take me. And, I feel terrible for people who are victims of a crime, no matter what type of crime, but it's frustrating to hear that people aren't taking the common sense steps to help themselves and, by the way, their neighbors. So the fewer times your neighborhood gets robbed, the fewer times people are going to be likely looking back to, coming back to try and find another vehicle. So I don't know if you guys are working on a campaign, if you're going door to door, but maybe that could be included in the LTC as well, because it's a preventable crime, and it's really frustrating that we're squandering resources on this.
And Commissioner, you left one important group out of that. They're putting us in danger as well, because we're the ones, and police officers and my colleagues are the ones that have to engage with these people later on while they're driving those stolen cars, and we have to chase them in unpleasant conditions and deal with unpleasant people. So they're also putting our police officers and first responders in.
It's ironic, there's Scott Rakow, the Scott Rakow Center namesake, used to do guard duty at the Palm Hibiscus Star Island guardhouse, and he lost his life in a criminal car chase, predicated on drugs, not cars. But there are a lot of crimes that we can't prevent, and we need everybody safe and sound to be there to try to help our residents and visitors when those happen. But for the number of crimes that we can prevent, let's prevent them, for heaven's sake. We're neighbors, let's all work together. So big section about that as well.
I know we do have some initiatives going on, ongoing, and this is not a new problem.
Yeah.
This has been an ongoing problem. I know we have ongoing publicity campaigns and social media campaigns to address it, in addition to door-to-door campaigns as well. I know we've done in the past. So,
yeah, we did a big push about 6 months ago, and we saw the spike decrease. And now, after the last incident you're talking about at Palm Island, we're starting back again. Our PIOs are starting back up that campaign again. Let them know about locking their cars and everything.
Excellent. Thank you, officers.
Thank you.
I know we have the Byron Carlisle. I want to get to that. I know we have a 1 p.m. time certain. That's going to be lengthy, and perhaps we close out the meeting with the Byron Carlisle and then items 5 and 25. But before we get to that, I'm hoping we could get out number 30 perhaps quickly, but we shall see. But Alex, Commissioner Fernandez, why don't you tee that off, and then we will close out the meeting with items number 34, then 5 and 25 heard together.
I'll read, I'm sorry, it was number 30, discuss considering the creation of a new capital project to install floating walkways and/or the acquisition of the outlot at 2811 Indian Creek Drive to complete the Indian Creek pedestrian pathway, number 30.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an item I've placed on the agenda because we've made quite a significant and I think a beautiful public investment with the Indian Creek pedestrian pathway. So if you ever go out to Mid Beach, the area between 26th Street to about actually from 24th Street to about 41st Street. You'll see along the Indian Creek waterway on the east side a beautifully landscaped pedestrian way that residents can now enjoy. One of the concerns that I have about it, however, is that it's supposed to safely connect individuals from its southernmost point around 24th Street to 41st Street. When you're walking northbound on that pathway, at about 28th Street, right before the 29th Street pedestrian bridge, there's one parcel that hasn't signed, I guess, an easement agreement with the city. Is that the right terminology? Is it an easement agreement?
Yeah, the commissioner, and through the chair.
I just want the
Yes,
terminology.
yes.
It is an easement agreement. Okay.
Easement, correct.
Right. So they haven't signed that easement agreement with the city. So then what happens is that the individual that's walking northbound on that pedestrian pathway, you can't get on the street because there's a barricade, there's a concrete barricade protecting pedestrians. Your only option then is to walk on the seawall. You get to the pedestrian bridge and you have to jump the wall of the pedestrian bridge if you really want to be able to use this facility. In my eyes, it is a significant safety issue. Here we are creating a piece of public infrastructure, a public investment to create a safe alternative for pedestrians, and then you hit a roadblock because one holdout, one property owner got in the way of an important piece of connectivity for public purpose, for mobility purpose even. And that one holdout is creating a safety situation for anyone using this. And so we need to have a conversation about this because the taxpayers have made a significant investment there. So that one property owner just ruins the experience for everyone else. Now, I know that the property owner is selling the home associated with that outlot, but quite frankly, every other property owner has signed an easement agreement with the city. And I want to know, what are our options to start having a conversation about eminent domain for that portion of easement that we will need in order to complete this public infrastructure? This is something that the taxpayers have supported, that we've invested in, that the neighboring properties have signed easement agreements on, and now one holdout is creating a dangerous situation for the rest of the community. And so I hate to talk about eminent domain, but this is public. I see this as part of our mobility options. And other agencies do it all the time. FDOT does it all the time to ensure connectivity and safe connectivity. And here I think that we need to engage in this conversation because it's unfair and it's unsafe. Putting aside fairness, it's not safe for the people who are using this public infrastructure. With that, I want to recognize Joe Gomez, our Public Works Director, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Before we recognize Joe, just a quick question, maybe an interactive conversation back and forth between you and I. Fantastic initiative, very similar to what dealing with in my neck of the woods with the public bay walk that has been 10 years in the making, so I know how frustrating it can be having certain properties hold out. The property in question, and where I'm going with this, one of the initiatives, Joe, that we've done on the Bay Walk is any redevelopment of properties there is mandated to build the Bay Walk out back. For instance, Monad Terrace, they had to publicly construct the Bay Walk. Did you mention that this property is for sale or is traded hands?
It's currently for sale, and it's been for sale for quite a while. It's a single family home. And it's been on the market for a while now.
And is this historically designated, do you know?
I don't know. I don't know if the property is designated or not.
So, you know, one option, I don't want to speak for you, I'm sure it's part of your plethora of options. It does look like an outdated home, and I'm sure in that area along the water, one of the appealing things would be some sort of redevelopment. I don't know, Mr. City Attorney, if you'd be able to opine, similar to what we did for the multifamily properties along the Bay Walk, any redevelopment would be mandated with the construction of the private Bay Walk. Is there something that we'd be able to say any permit that was sought for the redevelopment of this property would have to come with some sort of easement like the commissioner is advocating for?
Without knowing the precise desire of the new property owner, it's hard to really give an opinion. But it is a possibility if there's a redevelopment that would require any kind of zoning approvals or DRB approvals that, you know, to include a condition, but I would need more details.
Okay, I'll kick it over to Joe.
Okay. So the property, as Commissioner Fernandez mentioned, the property in question, we approached the property owner several times during the Indian Creek project. All the other property owners that had water side properties either deeded or provided us a perpetual easement for us to be able to build the shared use and the seawall. So in this particular case, we've tried on multiple occasions, and the property owner is just reluctant to. And as Commissioner Fernandez also mentioned, he's had the property up for sale now for 400 and some odd days. And has not had any offers. So at this point, you know, we're just looking for direction in terms of what the next step is to be.
Mr. Chair, I think it's important. I think the safety of our residents, the safety of our pedestrians, the safety of our bicyclists comes as number one priority. For one property owner to force people to have to walk on a seawall, to make it to a pedestrian bridge, it's selfish and irresponsible when everyone else has signed this agreement. I think this city commission needs to be exploring the possibility of entering into an eminent domain proceeding with this property owner. Right now, it's not safe. Even if you go and you jump the concrete barricade, you're doing so on Indian Creek Drive, where you have buses going by. So even that is not a viable option. There's no way here that you can get into a safe facility given the current situation. So I think I would like to keep this portion of this item open, because I would like the city attorney and the city administration to come back to us with our options, with what would be the options and the process to start eminent domain proceedings so that we can complete this pathway that is supposed to make conditions safer for pedestrians. Not less safe, safer. And so I'd like for us to do that here. Now, part two of this item is between 26th and 41st Street. We don't have there the ability the width to have the continuation of the pathway over there. It just doesn't exist.
Correct.
Jose, speak to us about Joe. No, sorry, what did I call you, Jose? Joe.
That's okay. I am Jose.
Joe, speak to us about doing the floating walkways there. How feasible is it? How involved? How costly? What are our alternatives so we can complete this?
Thank you, Commissioner. So yes, in order to be able to accomplish the continuity of the path, because of the, as you mentioned, the very tight space that we have there, we would have to extend the path outwards from its current location to be able to have continuity. In order to do that, we use the terminology of floating dock, but it really is more than likely constructing an extended seawall cap to be able to provide a safe path for the pedestrians. So we looked at it, and in terms of it's complicated because of also of the environmental constraints that we have on the Indian Creek Canal. It would require, we're estimating somewhere between $200,000 and $400,000 in terms of design, because it will require structural design to look at it in terms of how we're able to accomplish that. Permitting, certainly, and I know my colleague Lindsay Precht is here, but I know that there are several agencies that would be involved. Permitting could take upwards of a year, and construction costs, we're estimating somewhere in the neighborhood of, without doing detailed design, somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 to $4 million to be able to accomplish that. Can it be done? More than likely, it can be engineered, but it will be a lengthy process, and there may be some environmental resistance from some of the agencies because of the issue with seagrass and shadows and things of that nature.
For that price, we could buy the property and give the easement ourselves and sell it back.
Well, but this is separate. This is, so the property.
I guess, yeah.
Because
Okay,
this is the two parts of it. But so, Joe, let me ask you this, because of course these are costs that are over several fiscal years. So to start, the capital investment of actually constructing it, that's at the very tail end of the process, and we can start, certainly, if it's the will of the body, start programming for that for the future. But in the meantime, to start looking at, design and permitting, what is it that we would need? Because the thing is, we've done already a significant investment. Not to complete it, it's, you're leaving people almost in the middle of nowhere. Not in the middle of nowhere, but you need to complete it.
Right. So we would recommend that then, if it's the will of the body, for us to go ahead and we would program the monies for at least to do the design and the permitting portion of the project. That effort will probably take about 2 years, because the permitting will be extensive, a lot of coordination with the permitting agencies. And then at that point, we would be able to program in a couple of years, program the construction dollars to be able to build it, once we know exactly what that construction cost is going to be.
Well, I think it's something that we need to start doing, because, we say a couple of years away, and I can tell you sitting here 2 years go by very quickly.
Yes.
And how wonderful it would be if, towards the end of our terms, we get to look back at a day like today and say, well, we had the vision to start something like this so that we could complete the connectivity and see the product of our vision implemented. So I think, if it's the will of the committee and the committee supports it, we have this gap. It goes like from Faina, about the Faina property. Is that correct, Joe?
Right, exactly.
It goes from about Faina all the way to about 41st Street. We were out there also with our deputy city manager, Eric Carpenter. And Joe, you were
Yes.
there, and we walked with the Mid-Beach Neighborhood Association,
Yes.
and they have concerns about it.
Of course.
Because again, at that point, you don't have holdout property owners, but you just don't have the public space. It's just not wide enough. And you have people then that end up walking on the street, and it's not safe for them. Here we have the alternative to do something really amazing and complete this connectivity all the way to 41st Street.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm aligned with that, Commissioner Fernandez. Going back quickly to the first portion of that, the property at 2811 Indian Creek Drive. If I'm understanding this correctly, and I thought this was the case from our packet that we received, but when we're talking about possibly eminent domain, certainly not a word I like. I know you feel the same, but it's not. Yes, it's on his property, but it's actually separated from the home portion.
Yes.
It's
By
an
the
outlot.
actual street.
Yeah,
Would they
it's-
have
it's-
any?
It's the parcel closest to the water on the other side of Indian Creek.
Would they be able to build anything there? Would they be able to?
A dock potentially.
A dock, more than likely, that would be it, and obviously, they would have to go through the permitting process as well, which is complicated, so.
But all the other property owners could still go in and do docks also if they wanted their
Yes,
properties.
Yes, and that was
Giving
part of the agreement that we had with the easements or the deeds.
The property owner providing the easement agreement to the city doesn't prohibit them still from using the outlots or doing a dock if they so
Correct.
desire. The current property owner or a future property owner, it's just giving us the ability to put this through, and they've chosen not to. Now, we don't have to eminent domain the house.
Right, of course. Yeah.
We just, we just eminent domain, the portion of the property that we
Hey,
need
we
on
may.
the outlot.
Yeah, this could be the city manager site. I'm supportive of that. When I first heard, eminent domain and things like that, I really, back that up. But I'm looking at this, and this is very non-usable to the property owner. It's separated by a major thoroughfare, and it is holding out a major public benefit. This isn't just a pet project. This is something that is a critical pedestrian thoroughfare for our entire Mid-Beach neighborhood.
So, Mr. Chair, so since it's two parts, probably it would have been easier if I would have done two separate items, but it's on one item. I feel like, would it be appropriate if I can make two separate motions?
I think that makes sense in light of the two different items that are combined into one, yes.
Yeah, so one motion would be asking the city attorney, well, would it be recommending to the city commission that we start the process to do eminent domain and for the city attorney to guide the city commission on that process for the portion of the outlot that we would need to continue the pathway.
I'll work with Jason on the after action, but I think you want to direct the commission will want to direct the city attorney to work with the administration on the process that could ultimately lead to an eminent domain if other steps taken do not result in the desired outcome.
Well, if other steps taken, they have already not resulted in the desired outcome. We are doing this. So we are not going back and, waiting, no,
So if I may,
we've already tried, and the outcome has not been what the public deserves.
If I may, so it's to return to commission to recommend the city attorney work with the city administration to begin an eminent domain process or be able to negotiate an access easement, because it could end up being that.
Yes.
And then to return to commission with the action?
Yes. Yes,
Does that
that-
make
I
sense,
move
Rick?
that.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll second. And all in favor?
Aye.
It's a nice little quorum we have here.
Yeah, right? This-
I like this.
And so the second part of the motion relates to the part of the pathway that approximately around where Faina is at, all the way to 41st Street, so that we can start, bring us back what it is that we need to start, let's say fiscal year 25. What is it that you need in fiscal year 25, and break it down by the years so that we can start programming this and start moving forward with this piece of infrastructure so that we can support the completion of this connectivity.
We
You
can
know.
certainly do that, sir.
Yeah, and obviously, it's not gonna be all in this fiscal year.
Of course.
Because you gotta do studies, permitting, design, and so it's a fiscal impact that's extended over multiple fiscal years. But I think, I'd want to direct the administration at commission to start, the process of this. So that, starting with fiscal year 25, we have dollars, to start looking into design and permitting.
And this would be, if I may, Commissioner, this would be a priority, not, because one, it's creating a new project. Is it just to create the new project to be part of our capital program to decide, or to be a priority during the 25 budget process and creating a new project? And again, it would be a multi-year phase
Yes.
one, probably maybe $200,000 or $400,000 for year one to begin the design, everything in the capital, construction dollars probably be in 26 or 27.
Listen, I think this needs to be a priority, because when you have people using pedestrian infrastructure and then they have to go on the street to achieve connectivity, it becomes a public safety issue, and we've already invested the dollars to do it, so we need to finish it.
So then the motion I would see is return to commission with a favorable recommendation to prioritize during the 2025 budget process a new capital project installing a floating walkway as part of the Indian Creek pedestrian pathway.
And if in prioritizing it, we find that, we need to adjust it or whatever, we always can, but my preference would be to send it as a priority.
Understood. Thank you. Do we have a second?
For a point of clarification, has there ever been a commissioner that proposed something? They go, no, don't prioritize it though.
This is my second budget round, and maybe
Put
one.
it lower.
Maybe one.
I will second your motion, Commissioner Fernandez, and if the time comes and we have a lot of priorities and we need to
Yeah,
readjust, we do
exactly.
so on the fly, but I think this is a great item.
We'll show the item past 3-0. Yes, thank you.
We do. Would love to hear the Byron Kyle, number 34, and then if my colleagues are so inclined, I would certainly like to try and hear our other time certain numbers 5 and 25, if you have the appetite for the meeting. I know those were the only two items that the mayor had on, and I think they were his priorities, so I'd like to be able to accommodate those in here, but leave it to you all.
Thank you. Number 34, discuss programming for the new Byron Carlisle Geobond project for a multi-purpose cultural art space and possibly workforce housing and/or other uses that are compatible with a cultural arts center and the surrounding neighborhood, and to consider the various options for financial and funding models for the project. Number 34.
So if I might, before you guys all dive in, to me, this is a pretty cut and dry opportunity. We have $30 million for cultural art space. The Geobond Committee has recommended unanimously that we spend monies towards this project. The movie theater model of what it used to be is dead. That is not a thing that people want to go and do the way they used to. Reimagining the Byron Carlisle as a multimodal cultural complex with a ton of community benefits and educational benefits is a boon and an economic driver to this part of the city. It ties in beautifully with what goes on in the North Beach, Normandy Fountain area on a regular basis, and at the band shell, and all the way out to the organically popped up gallery that actually had one of the artists who was the toast of the town at this past Basel. To not jump on this opportunity is a mistake, in my view. We have an opportunity not just to bring this cultural community center forward, but to do it in a way that also provides some workforce housing. We are talking about being a live, work, play community, and this is literally the embodiment of that. We are required by the CRA, into which the Byron Carlisle fits into the boundaries of, to build workforce housing, and this would enable us to meet that requirement without the additional cost of purchasing land. We don't own anything up there that would be suitable. And so we would be hitting on all cylinders here. So the other part to consider is that the workforce housing would help supplement the operating costs of the cultural center within a few years, so that instead of operating at a deficit, which we, the city and taxpayers, would have to subsidize, and limiting what it could provide to the community, the immediate community and the larger Miami community in terms of cultural offerings, it would actually be flush with operating cash to do all manner of fabulous things. So, like, I make a motion. No, I'm kidding.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, and I'll say one thing, kick it over to my colleague, Commissioner Fernandez. Agree with all your points, Commissioner Bott. Another way to say it is, given this opportunity, we would be paying money not to build workforce housing in an area where it may be needed most, and we're in a housing crisis. And I get everything comes with a push and a pull, and we could make the argument that there's this added, housing, help traffic, hurt traffic. I have my views that I've made well known, but at the end of the day, we don't have the money to create the cultural arts facility that we want without this workforce housing component, right? And quite literally, we would be saying, well, if we don't want this, we have to pay extra. So we would be paying extra just not to have workforce housing that we have in our city plans and priorities that we need to build.
That we have in our CRA requirements, that by law we have to build.
Yes. Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is where, when we discuss these items in different committees, we're looking at things through different lenses. If I'm looking at this from the lens of land use and a neighborhood that has a scarcity for parking, a neighborhood that has concerns about traffic, I have concerns about building a new building that can add more to the challenges that we are experiencing there. And there's also the vision of expanding workforce housing, which certainly is very important. If I'm looking at this through the lens of a member of the Finance Committee, it truly would be I would be derelict to my duties not to realize that the rent revenues here will contribute towards the operation and the maintenance of this cultural arts center, within a very short period of time. And I think it wholly covers the operating costs within the first years. And that it'll be able, the ongoing rent revenue would be able to contribute significantly towards the expanded programming and the commissioning of artistic work and other types of subsidies that would be needed to sustain cultural activity. So when you sit in different capacities, when you're looking at it from the land use aspect of it, I have concerns. I have concerns about adding more density there, about the impacts to parking and the significant impacts with traffic. When I look at this from analyzing the numbers of this, it's clear that it makes sense. We advance in our stated goals of workforce housing. We advance in our goals of North Beach being part of the cultural fabric, contributing greatly to the cultural scene that the Miami Beach has. But most importantly, the net revenues would go towards the operations and maintenance of this facility, and the city would end up retaining ownership of the land and can exercise its rights at any time. How do I say no to that? We're advancing in our goals.
I'd like to make a motion.
In a way that is beneficial ultimately to the taxpayers of the city. So I'm happy to second your motion, Commissioner Bond.
Thank you, Commissioner Fernandez. Could not agree more, and thank you for putting it very eloquently. I was on the other side of this for so many years, and always encourage public discussion. City Attorney has made me aware that we have hands raised for public comment. I would like to hear them. I do have a quick question. Yeah, of course. Without being said, are we actually tying into a financial model here today, or we're just directing staff to say, go out and bring us back the options for this workforce market rate housing mix component?
Good afternoon, committee members. Eric Carpenter, Deputy City Manager. All you're doing today is giving us your direction so that we can bring a discussion back to commission, because obviously we had a recommendation from a different committee. We'll get a recommendation from this committee. We're going to bring both of those back to commission and have a discussion there, where ultimately we will hopefully get some clear direction on how we want to pursue the next steps to bring this cultural facility that the community has been asking for a long time to fruition.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Eric. And where I'm at, I actually wrote in, called in, and opposed the first model when this went to RFP before, because I didn't agree with the short-term rental components. You can like or not like the development in North Beach. The one thing that I despise, and I think I speak for just about everybody, from rental components. So the ground rules that I would like to set is, we want to talk about minimum unit size. I think we've all been aligned on that, of not wanting extreme micro units, and absolutely no short-term rental abilities. This is a city where we need to start really facilitating full-time residential housing. And when we have the opportunity to do so on public land, that's the model that we should be putting forward.
So if I may, before we let everybody else, no short-term rentals, no micro units, and we should not let the misguided decisions of prior commissions saddle this excellent project with the doubts that have been sown because of oversize, overscale, overpriced, high-end micro unit or not. Well, in both, some buildings have both, but micro unit short-term rentals that are going to be visited upon us in North Beach. Those things are done, and if there were a way to undo them, I would be first in line to do that. However, this is the definition of the kind of development we wanted, and the master plan, the North Beach master plan called for, and that the residents were behind in droves. And so there are ways to mitigate the parking issue. The goal is for many people to not even need cars because they would be working and living in the same place. This is exactly the kind of development that should have been encouraged by prior administrations, by prior electeds, when the master plan, the NOBI master plan, was approved, because that's what the community said they wanted. And instead, we have a 22-story building that's literally advertising in the New York Times with a phrase, I'm going to quote it directly. It's a live link in the New York Times, and you can click on it. It says, 72 Park, Miami Beach, first short-term rental approved residences in Miami Beach. That's the mess we have to clean up. That's the project that is the first of many to come that we are dealing with. And so for colleagues or neighbors in North Beach blaming that garbage and laying it on top of what we're trying to build here is damaging and problematic to me. So yes to this, no to any more of that nonsense. So I will now climb down from my soapbox.
Let me give you my hand.
Yes.
Mr. City Attorney, can we go online?
Sure, we have two participants on Zoom. If we could please let Mr. Sam Intrator speak. You have 2 minutes. Please unmute yourself. Mr. Intrator? please unmute yourself. All right, let's move to Mr. Wayne Roberts. Mr. Wayne Roberts, you have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I really respect Tanya and all you folks on the bench today. I do have concerns, and I don't live in North Beach, and I literally do not have all the information that you folks have in my mind. I do have some points that concern me. Tanya is absolutely correct. The North Beach town center was abused, and the outcome is not as good as it could be. And it was due to some propaganda that started with, statements of grandeur that ultimately turned into not the best outcome. So I want to make sure when the city makes decisions, it's based on facts and data, and that has the good outcome that we seek. So my concern was the city came out like a month ago, a gentleman representing the city, and he gave some facts and figures that really shocked me. So today we have $30 million worth of public money that was approved in the bond that was sold to us as a standalone project for the Carlisle, the buyer. It wasn't going to be merged in with somebody else's game. So now we're on a different area, but he said that the cost to run it independently was like more than double. And I'm doing the math, and on a one-story building or a two-story building, I'm looking at construction south of Fifth where it's 3 stories and it's under $800 a foot built out.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
So,
Your time is up.
And Wayne, I will say,
Wow.
you and I had kind of a quick conversation on some of those construction costs, and I invite you in, and it actually raised my antenna. I'm happy if you'd be willing to dedicate some of your time to come in and talk with me and city staff on that. Though I think, these are kind of separate items, but I'm happy to address that point with you, Wayne, because you have my curiosity piqued as well. Mr. City Attorney.
We have no other participants.
Anybody in the audience? Mayor Gelber would always say, no need to do so while you're ahead, but
I feel great. I've spoken to all of you individually, so I think, in honor of Dan.
thank you all for your care, passion, and commitment to our city.
I think there's a motion and a second, so would you call the vote?
Okay,
Yep.
as always, just to clarify, I believe I have it corrected. Return to commission with a favorable recommendation to proceed with the new Byron Carlisle project incorporating workforce housing with no micro units and no short-term rentals.
Excellent. Congratulations, everybody. Excited for the community seeing this move forward. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I just have one question, and I'm passing this, and we're supporting this. When this gets to commission, the one thing I would just want to know when we discuss this further is, does the housing have to be limited just to arts? Can it be just a percentage for arts so that also the general population, obviously an important project, we're going to move, I feel we need to move forward with this, given the economic model of it. But I just want to make sure it's just not limited to art force and support.
As I understand, I think the only parameters that we are even given direction to, and the commission would be able to pivot from that, is no
An RFQ.
short-term rentals, no micro units.
And workforce, that was, and the
Workforce, general
I
workforce.
used the term workforce, and I think that could be then clarified to commission if you're going to then segregate specific percentages for other uses.
All right, and the motion is for us to, for you guys to draft an RFQ. That would be.
I think it was to return, and I think I defer to the deputy city manager, because I think there's another recommendation from another committee. I guess it would come as a discussion to get clarification of.
Discuss and take action?
Yeah, I mean, we would ultimately put this on as a discuss and take action at the city commission, especially since we had, differing results at the 2 different committees. It wouldn't be a consent item, it would be a discussion item, or could potentially even be a resolution. But to the point of the other item, obviously, we will have plenty of time to discuss the details of the different approaches to different components of the project in the future. Thank you.
And do we have appetite to hear number 5 and 25 combined?
Yeah, let's not do that.
Excellent.
Let me read into the record. Number 5, discuss taking whatever action is necessary, including allocating funding for electricity and infrastructure upgrades in order to provide permanent palm tree lighting in Loomis Park. That is number 5. And then linked to number 25, identifying lighting enhancements in specified areas of South Beach as previously recommended by the Public Safety and Neighborhood Quality of Life Committee, similar to other successful lighting projects implemented in other areas of the city, such as 41st Street, 71st Street, and Meridian Avenue. Number 25.
Ladies first.
Okay, we're going to start with number 5. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Elizabeth Muro, Facilities and Fleet Management's Interim Director for the record. So this is to install permanent lighting at Loomis Park. The lights that we have there right now are temporary in nature, and they've exceeded their useful life. And we've expended a lot of resources trying to mend and everything, but what we need there is either a complete overhaul of its existing infrastructure, which we provided 2 quotes, or we may even contemplate solar lighting, which does not require as extensive infrastructure, but there is a cost associated with it.
Liz, thank you for that. And Joe, I don't know if you have anything to say, and I'm certainly not an expert here, but I live above Canopy Park and I overlook it. And the lighting, I don't know how to describe it, but it's kind of at the lower level where it's almost like pillars coming out of the ground. It's the most beautiful park I've ever seen, and I'm blessed to live above it and look down on it. Why wouldn't something like that work in Loomis Park? It would be respective of the turtles because it's not elevated, and it just provides a very nice, warm, and it enhances public safety. Why couldn't something like that be the model in Loomis Park?
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the majority of our residents and visitors, they enjoy the tree wrap lighting that we have.
So I didn't mean
Yeah,
mutually exclusive. Yeah.
Oh, but I see, you're saying also provide some bollard lighting as
Yeah,
well.
bollard lighting.
Yeah. That's certainly something we can
We can
certainly look
explore
at, for sure. And
Okay.
and it is very, very nice. It lights up the path.
If I can add just for, because we have a couple of new members of the commission, we had a series of very similar items, I think are more linked to number 25. But as the items mentioned, there's already tree-wrapped lighting in several other districts of the city. I think there's, again, one in South Beach, one in Mid Beach, one in North Beach. They're quite expensive. Some of them were several $1 million. They were discussed during the 24 budget process. They were not prioritized and they were not funded. Obviously, there's the one component of the several $1 million to actually install, and then there's the ongoing annual costs, because they are quite pricey using the vendor, and any vendor, but for the maintenance, because there's constant maintenance wear and tear on those things. So I think when the prior commission looked at these several different areas, the dollars just were not allocated in that area.
And I think that's where I was also going with the bollards. Not that they'd be mutually exclusive, but I would presume that maybe the upfront cost would be greater, but the ongoing OpEx would be much less because there wouldn't be that replacement component.
For bollard lighting, the maintenance cost is much less than for tree wrap lights. That's correct.
Can I ask a dumb question? Thank you. Everyone loves the wrap trees. We have them all over the city. More and more neighborhoods want them to be in their neighborhood. part of the cost is that we have to use outside vendors, right, to wrap the trees.
Yes.
We have, what do they call them, cherry picker trucks as part of our fleet.
We do.
So could we not have one or two people on our facilities team learn how to do this and be our sort of in-house experts, so that the cost would go down significantly to just the cost of replacing the lights? Alex just said he would
If I may,
volunteer.
I don't, I don't recall, because I implemented this project when I was in Surfside, so their downtown district. And from what I recall, the most of the cost was the actual purchase of the lights itself. The installation cost, which was done by an outside vendor who's, obviously an expert in how to put this together quickly and such, was part of it.
Yes.
But I believe it's really the special, 24, not 24/7, but 365-day a year holiday type lighting
Right.
is really I think the majority of that upfront cost, not necessarily manpower. Obviously, if it was able to be done in-house, there would be some kind of savings, but I don't think that's the majority of it.
I do want to, though, if we were to do that, it would be a dedicated crew, and I can tell you from Public Works perspective, our street lighting crew is a crew of 8, and they're responsible for maintaining most of the lights in city-owned lights in the city. So it's quite a bit of work. So this would require additional resources.
Thank you, Joe. And I think we can maybe make a motion to move forward with number 5, and if it's prioritized in the budget, it's prioritized in the budget. To the extent that it's not, it's not.
Through the chair, if I may clarify, so number 5 actually offers 2 options. One, which is a complete infrastructure upgrade. That's just basically hardwired, installing junk boxes and so forth. And the other is solar powered.
So let me, if I can ask about that, because I thought solar power, my understanding was, because I recall when we did the lights on Meridian Avenue, which I'm still so excited about the lights on Meridian Avenue. I get so happy whenever I drive down there at night. I call it like the silver lining of Miami Beach at night. But my understanding from when we did that installation was that solar lighting was not feasible. I don't know if it's because of the shade of the trees. Is it a different condition on Ocean Drive where perhaps we could do that there?
I believe the fact that we have a more open space allows for the solar lighting to be successful there. We did test one, and by the way, the solar lighting we're proposing is completely amber, so it allows you to have the lighting year-round. And we do have 2 options, one with a 20-foot, which is the majority of the trunk, and one that's a full palm tree. Of the 600-some palm trees we have out there, this would wrap 494.
And what's the difference in cost between doing solar as opposed to doing the junction boxes and everything else?
So for the solar lighting, it's approximately $575,000, and $877,000 if we were going to do the full trunk. For the infrastructure, it's about $815,000. The only thing with the solar lighting, it also includes a maintenance cost for a year, depending on which lighting we propose.
What is the recommendation of the administration?
I would probably propose, if you wanted to do something very quickly, maybe want to do a pilot to see how well the solar lighting works. And also, look at long-term, you have the infrastructure.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you well.
Sorry.
We have airplanes flying over us, it's hard to hear.
There's things you're imagining in your head. I don't hear airplanes.
So, as I was saying, we may want to do a pilot with the solar lighting to see how well it works. We do know that the solar lighting also has the ability to change colors, but that's going to be for 2026. And that allows us to have year-round lighting where we can have the warm white lights throughout the year, except for turtle season where we would have amber.
And if I'm correct on that, is if the option is, if they're interested in that option, this would be basically a deferred item where you would recommend, because the tech isn't ready, is this would be a 26. This would come back as a 26 enhancement for consideration.
Correct.
Which one? I'm sorry? Which
For
one?
the solar.
For the solar.
The solar with the multi lighting, just I guess the tech isn't ready, and yeah.
Can I ask a question? Through the chair, I was under the impression the solar lighting didn't have bright enough lights and didn't stay lit long enough. Have those issues been addressed with the technology?
Yes, they have, we actually had a couple of samples and they're very bright. You couldn't
Okay.
tell that they were solar.
So I would respectfully suggest that we do a pilot of the solar because we're trying to be leaders in environmental sustainability. So it would be less expensive, be less for drain, and not require electricity. That would be my preferred.
I agree. And I know from when I sponsored the item with the trees on Meridian Avenue, after it got installed, a number of the residents reached out. They loved it, but they wished it would have been solar. And we had to explain to them why we couldn't do solar. So taking that feedback into consideration, I'd second Commissioner Bott's motion to proceed with testing the solar technology.
And if I may, to always this facilitate, is that, so we would send this to commission with a favorable recommendation to prioritize during the 25 budget process, a pilot project at Loomis Park for the solar lights. And then I guess and that would be the motion. And then they would, if it gets budgeted and it gets installed, then, we can see how that tech works out. And then, return at some future date if there's interest in to expand those lightings to other areas. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, we do. Could we hear from Mr. Sam Intrator? You have 2 minutes. Please unmute yourself.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. So I have been working with a group of 20, 30 local residents here, So Be Safe is included in them, and other community organizations are trying to bring decorative lights to Ocean Drive, to Collins Avenue, and to Washington Avenue. I think these items are before you right now. And I want to just appeal to you by saying that we are probably the most walked, traveled part of Miami Beach. And in terms of lighting, we are not well lit at all. I'm happy that 41st and 71st Street have gotten those kind of lights that create a certain look to them and obviously illuminate the area. I think we deserve it based on the tax base. We, at both residential as well as tourists, we contribute immensely to the city. There have been, just I would say 2 weeks ago, someone was mugged down the street here. So there's many spots where the lighting is not strong at all. From what I understand, it requires serious legislation and much more expense to install street lights, whereas these decorative lights are much cheaper, these holiday lights. And in light of all the above, I'm certainly hoping that you will support this and pass this. Today, we've been working on this for years. We met with commissioners, mayor, over the last 3-4 years. We've been in conversation. A few blocks have been lit up, but it's not what we're asking for. We're asking for these 3 strips to be lit up in the appropriate areas that you have before you. And in light of the finances, in light of what we contribute, I think we deserve to be treated seriously and to be given your utmost attention. Hopefully you will pass this out of committee favorably. The mayor supports it. So I can see no reason why we should not be given this important tool to make our neighborhood safe and to make it feel secure and look beautiful aesthetically as well.
Thank you, Mr. Intrator. Could we please hear from Mr. Novak?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Mitch Novick, 901 Collins Avenue. I overlook Loomis Park, and I find this proposal entirely unnecessary, especially when considering the cost to wrap lights around 494 palm trees at a cost in excess of $500,000. I find the wrap palm trees, especially at the Clevelander, gaudy. The Kelvin temperature is wrong. I agree we need better lighting in the city, especially over Collins Avenue. But also, you need to consider there's a looming boondoggle park project associated with Lummis Park where Ocean Drive is proposed to be put where the palm trees are today. I would hope you kill that plan and kill this plan regarding the palm trees. It's unnecessary. This being a budget-conscious commission, we need to focus on the necessities of the infrastructure we need. And on a nice note, I invite everybody to my place this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Should be a nice community-oriented crowd. And thank you. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mitch. I know how much this weekend always means to you and what a fabulous host you are. Thank you for all you do for the community, and we always welcome your input. So to the extent, did somebody want to make a motion? Danny made one and seconded?
Right, and I'm just to restate again, it's the returning commission favorable recommendation to prioritize during the 25 budget process a pilot project for the Loomis Park tree wrapped solar lighting, and then we'll see how that turns out and revisit at a future time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. 26. I think HR left.
I'm going to open and continue item number 26 because I'd like to have our Human Resources Department present here. I'm also separately working on a red flag ordinance that I would like to be part of the responsibilities of the Inspector General for items appearing on the agenda. I want to make sure that if we're looking to increase the pension of the Inspector General, the Inspector General isn't, running the day-to-days of the city and on call 24/7 year round. The city attorney, the city manager, they're constantly getting our calls, and it's a reason why these certain charter offices have the higher pension amount. This request came to increase the pension accrual factor for the Inspector General. I just want to make sure we do it in a way that's fair. That we just don't give, that we give this, that it truly is done in a way that it's fair to the level of work that's also done by the other chartered offices. So I'm just going to open and continue this, given also that HR is not present.
We'll show the item open and continue to the next meeting. Thank you.
Now, we got through a lot today, which I don't know if that's good at a finance committee, because it just means we're spending a lot of money.
One more for the mayor?
Do which?
Weren't there 2 things?
No, there's 5 and 25. We heard those both.
Sorry, okay.
Yeah, I think, thank you, staff, for all your time. I hope before traffic becomes a headache, you're able to get out and enjoy this lovely weekend with family. To those that will be participating in the events, festivities, and operations of our city this weekend, certainly thank you for your times and efforts, and fabulous Memorial Day weekend, everybody. And make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Third.
Recording stopped.